beginning to look a lot like Christmas around here because we are 4 hours away. I don't know about producer Ben, but I am 4 hours away from hitting the eject button and not coming back around here until January 2nd. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Tolos, welcome in to our very last show of 2024. It's been a wild year. It's been a bad year for my teams. I don't know about yours. I'm going to ask you that coming up a little bit later on in the show. What are your favorite sports moments from your teams over the 2024 calendar season? What moments do you look back on with fondness, and what moments are just kind of put your head down and let's not talk about it? Move on into 2025. Shall we? Today is your very last chance to get me your upset picks for bowl games taking place after Christmas. So if you haven't yet gotten in your upset pick for a game after Christmas, text me now, 71307. Give me your name, your game, and the spread. And a programming note about that, starting on January 1st, you will no longer text 71307. You will text our normal call-in line, which is 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Some groundbreaking and I don't know how earth-shattering it's really ultimately going to be, because how much influence does Nick Saban actually have on the sport of college football anymore? Now that he's no longer in the sport, now that he's on the outside talking about the sport, he can open up. He can say what he really feels. He can put out some great advice and some potential directions of where the sport should go, but nobody has to listen to him. He's just a guy, just like you and me, talking into the wind. And until Nick steps up and does what we all want him to do, be the czar of college football, take this thing over, sit upon the Iron Throne, he's just another guy out there talking. Yeah, he's got a microphone, a little bit bigger microphone than ours, but they don't have to listen to him. They don't have to do what Nick Saban thinks we should do. A fantastic interview between Nick Saban and Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee Show. I want to start the show by actually reacting to some of the things that Nick Saban had to say, one of which was that you, as a fan, don't really need to donate to your school's NIL. You probably shouldn't donate to your school's NIL. Play that one here in just a second. Nick Saban, though, says all he ever promised guys when he was coaching at Alabama was an opportunity to get better. But that today's 4 and 5-star guys, they don't care about getting better. They just care about maximizing their earnings right now. Get on the field right now. Make money right now. Where can I go to get both of those things right now? And here's Nick Saban, legendary coach, whole bunch of national championships, kind of bemoaning how college athletes have changed over the past several years.
Well, I think it's obviously good for the players if they can make that kind of money, as college players, which was, never allowed. We weren't allowed to have anything prior to 5 years ago. But I do think on the development side of it, it is not beneficial to players. I think that when you have to go out and compete, and I don't think you can be a good competitor, you mentioned it, if you can't overcome adversity. I mean, that's a part of being a good competitor. I mean, I don't care what sport you're playing or when you're playing, if it's golf, if it's tennis, if it's soccer, I don't care what it is. There's going to be times when, you have a bad play. There's something that you have to overcome. And I think people learn to do that in the process of development and what they have to do to get better so they can compete. And you're absolutely right. All I ever promised a guy was an opportunity. And I said, you're going to have an opportunity. I told Jonathan Allen, you're going to practice every day against Cam Robinson. All right, he's going to win the Outland Trophy. You're going to win the Outland Trophy. All right, but that's how you're going to get better. And guys bought into that because they were looking to the future. How can I develop value for my future? Now guys are looking to where can I develop value right now, today? What can I get today? So it's less about playing and being a great player and more about what can I get instantly, in terms of getting in the portal or going to another school. And, nobody talks about the college experience anymore. Nobody talks about graduation. All these things are probably important to the future. And, I actually coached 25 years ago when not very many guys graduated. And there were a lot of stories out there about, guys that didn't do very well when they, got out in the real world and they couldn't play anymore. So I know there are people like yourself who have done extremely well. And there'll always be cases like that, but there's going to be a lot of people that they should use their football playing opportunities to, develop a career outside the game so they can have success when they can't play.
Yeah. So I heard Nick Saban basically call today's modern 4- and 5-star athletes soft, the ones that don't want to work, the ones that just want that instant gratification. They want to be told, and they want to buy into that hype that coming out of high school, I'm elite. I'm already great. I don't need you, coach, who makes less money than I do. I'm getting $1 million. What are you talking about? Coach, you're making $250. I'm making $1 million. Why should I listen to you? Why should I let you develop me? Oh, you want to put me on the bench? I'm going to transfer. I mean, that's where college athletes are today. Nick Saban, though, especially the back half of that audio clip, I heard Nick Saban, without directly saying it, I heard him agreeing with Dabo Swinney quite a bit. Look, and I know that Cole and I on this station, we've poked a lot of fun at the people who focus so heavily on Clemson player graduation rates. They pump that stat up like that's a big deal. I'd rather have touchdowns than graduation rates. I mean, look, you want to have both, certainly, but we're talking about football here. We're not talking about academics. We're talking about football. And Nick Saban, bemoans that those things don't matter to a lot of kids anymore. Development doesn't matter to them. The college experience, growing and becoming a better person doesn't matter to them anymore. It's just, what can I get right here and right now? You want to text into the show, 71307, react right along with me to Nick Saban's quotes. I've got 2 more here. Texter says, I know NIL is to blame, but I also partially blame NFL rules and regulations on rookie contracts. It's partially their fault. Okay, let's explore that thought. Texter, I think this is JD that texts in. I think this is JD. Do me a favor, Tolos, all of you, please, every single time you text in, put your name on your text. It feels like I'm having a conversation with you, not just talking at some random faceless, nameless person who's texting into the show. The NFL is to blame for this. Do you mean that NFL rookie contracts have come down and they're less lucrative than they used to be? I remember 15 years ago, you'd be signing a number 1 overall quarterback pick for a tremendous amount of money, and maybe they hit, maybe they don't. The NFL is clearly trying to mitigate their own risk, and they're trying to manage these contracts a little bit so that if a guy turns out to suck, we don't have to be on the hook for paying this guy, $10 million who sucks. We can pay you a small amount for the first couple of years, and then if you end up being good, bam, that's when you get that first huge contract. So if that's what you mean, Texter, that's an interesting take. I wouldn't really think of it that way. I mean, the NFL is a business. The NFL is not a charity. It's not the NFL's job to make 21, 22-year-old kids rich. It's their job to develop new talent and keep replenishing their own talent. Texter says, I mean, they make a few $1 million, I believe, but they can make more by staying in college. And yes, that's JD. I guess. I mean, yeah, making more by staying. I don't really understand how that's the NFL's fault, though. It's not the NFL's fault. It's the people who decided to take the guardrails off of this thing. It's like having somebody who's never touched a bowling ball in their life and not having the bumpers up on the sides of the bowling lane. You don't blame the alley owner for somebody's bad score. You blame somebody for taking the bumpers down, knowing that somebody's not going to be good at bowling. Texter says, good and well, most of the athletes are not even going to class. When the last time on got suspended for grades? When's the last time one got suspended for grades? Philip, I don't know. I mean, that's an internal conversation about academics inside of the program. Those aren't really things that get released to the public anymore. It used to say, most of the time now it comes out as a violation of team rules. That's the sort of umbrella blanket terminology that they violated team rules. Well, the team rule is that you were supposed to keep your grades up. JD continues, says, yeah, but the NFL should pay these rookies a little more or make the contracts not as long. Again, I don't think that really is, that's not in the NFL's purview to undo something that they didn't have anything to do with, which is pay for play inducements in the transfer portal. just how huge NIL has gotten. The NFL doesn't have anything to do with that. The NFL pulls talent from college football, but the NFL doesn't own college football. It's not their business to decide or help college football in any way. MD75, did you see where the Chargers did that fair catch? MD75, I'm glad you're on top of this. We had a couple of people text in or send me messages on Twitter yesterday. Hey, that play that you guys have been running a promo about for the last couple of weeks, that happened. Yeah, we're going to talk about it in the very next segment of the show. Look at you on top of things. Nick Saban goes on to say that this problem with NIL, a big problem with NIL is that there's no limit on what NIL can ever be. And we've seen it with the NFL, with wide receiver contracts, with quarterback contracts. What do you hear every time somebody signs a new contract? XYZ player just signed the most lucrative contract for their position ever. And it's not about improving skills anymore. It's not even about just making a lot of money. It's like, I have to make more money than the other guy who I'm competing against. And that's not even the player. That just means they have great agents. A lot of times it's the same agent negotiating on behalf of multiple players. But Nick Saban here says, without saying, that you shouldn't even give, as a fan, you shouldn't give to your school's NIL.
Each year, it's gotten a little worse. Like, the first year we had name, image, and likeness 4 or 5 years ago, we had a $3 million and everybody was happy. All right, then the next year it was 7. Then the next year it's 10. Then this year it's 13. Now they're looking at 20. I mean, where does it end? And the people who are supporting this, they really get no benefit for it. And I'm sure that there's going to be some instances in the future where those people don't want to continue to support players that aren't there. I mean, how would you feel if you gave them $500,000 to your program and it was to pay certain players and those players all left after 1 year? You would say, I don't know if I'm going to continue to do this.
That right there is the reason why I will never, ever, ever donate money to my school's NIL collective, because these players up and leave. They don't owe me anything. In theory, in this example, I've just given them $500 of my own money. And again, that's chump change. It's $500 of my own money. I don't get any real tangible benefit for that. I mean, I get the enjoyment of them winning games, but I don't get anything for that, really. And then they can just up and leave. I can't sue them for breach of contract because there is no contract. There is no contract. So Nick Saban there is making a pretty strong case of why you should never give to your NIL collective either. Like, if you've just got so much money, you don't have anything to do with it other than literally light it on fire. Sure, give to your NIL collective. Short-term enjoyment. It's like short selling a stock. I get this little endorphin rush because I just gave money and maybe we picked up a win. But buddy, you're going to be mad next year when they up and leave. They leave you high and dry. I put $10,000 of my own money into Lenora Sellers' NIL fund. I made sure that my money was going to go to Lenora Sellers. And then what if Lenora Sellers up and leaves South Carolina? I don't think he will. I'm just using that as an example. You'd feel pretty stupid, wouldn't you? So Nick Saban is kind of foreseeing or foreshadowing the potential of these donors saying, you know what, enough is enough. Like, sure, anything catches fire, people are into it, that's exciting for a little while, and then they disappear. They don't want to be involved anymore. They don't want to donate their money anymore because they've been burned. How many times do you have to be burned before you say, you know what, that's a bad investment? NIL as a fan, putting your own money into NIL as a fan is a bad investment. If rich donors want to do it, if big companies want to do it, fine, go for it. Not going to be me. You're not going to get my money. I got bills to pay. And finally, Nick Saban on the Pat McAfee show was asked if programs who are doing this recruit a quarterback out of the portal or recruit an elite skill position guy out of the portal every year, in his mind is going to end up becoming a model going forward that a lot of schools should operate under.
You recruit a five-star guy, and you're able to recruit really, really well, which Georgia's done, Alabama did the whole time I was there. We always had really good luck in recruiting. You lose the next guy. Okay, so you have this five-star guy who thinks he should be playing. He doesn't play that much when he's a freshman. Like Marlon Humphrey didn't play when he was a freshman, but he was glad to develop and then become a great player, playing on special teams as a freshman, learn how to play on special teams, now became a great corner. That doesn't happen anymore. In this day and age, Marlon Humphrey's transferring. So you don't have that next best guy to come in, and you have all these holes on your roster and a lack of depth, which I think is something that people really don't look at or understand, because you don't lose your frontline guys, you lose the next guys, which affects the depth of your team. And if you're really going to play in a tough conference, you got to play a lot of tough games, even though I think, we talked about teams that had great schedules not getting in the playoffs, but the teams that played the best schedules are going to have the best chance to be successful in the playoffs because they're used to playing against good competition.
You know those like Whitman samplers of candies? The ones that you never know, like it's like life is like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get. When you bite into a chocolate, you never know what you're going to get. They all have this pretty outside. And this is what Nick Saban is saying that a lot of programs are turning into. You got this pretty outside shell, right? You've got 4- and 5-star guys starting at just about every position. The problem is, once you bite into that candy, you may have nothing on the inside. You may have some delicious caramel. You may have some other milk chocolate. You may have whatever. But you may also have raspberry filling, and you don't like raspberry filling. And that's what you got behind your 4- and 5-star guy. So you got a lot of teams with elite skill position players, but if you are not building the old-fashioned way, you're going to have big-time depth issues. And hey, who is recruited in the old-fashioned way, who's being told, if I do my job, if I compete hard in practice, if I work hard enough, if I increase my skills enough, by the time that I'm a sophomore, junior, or senior, I will be a starter for this team. And then your coach just pulls that rug out from under you and brings in a 5-star guy that they're paying $1 million. You're going to say, well, screw you, coach. I don't want to be here. Boom, hits the transfer portal. So look, the transfer portal, NIL, it's a cancer in college football. And until Nick Saban puts himself in a position of power, and maybe it's going to take some triumvirate, right? Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, and insert, some other Mr. Rogers of college football. This thing is going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. Some of your programs are going to do great under this model, and you're going to say, I love this. This is fun, until it's not fun anymore, until things are not going as well for you anymore. What say you? 71307. Text in, be a part of the show. Start your text with keyword fan. And today is going to be the last day that you have to do that, because starting January 1st, you're going to be texting in at 844-FAN phone. You will not be including the word fan in your text. And you're going to be just texting and calling the same phone number. That would be a blast, right? It's going to be great.
What's up, man?
Mad Crafter says Miami looks at players who played both Power 4 ball and the G5. Gotcha. We just got a receiver who played at Iowa State as wide receiver 3, played at Houston or something like that for 1,000 for 1K season. Not sure what 1K season means. JB says if no cap is put on this NIL, it's going to be into the stratosphere. Yeah, I mean, how big could it get? What's the tipping point when fans who are cash-strapped individuals just like you and me say, I'm not going to put any money into this thing, and the rich donors, I'm talking about the doctors and the lawyers and the engineers that come out of these power schools, they say, you know what? This is a bad investment. Yeah, I like to see my football team win, but I like to see my money grow more than anything else. Ben, who do we have on the line?
Dewey.
Let's go to our Daily Dewey very quickly. Dewey, you got 30 seconds.
Yes, this NIL stuff's a bunch of crap. It needs to go away. It's going to ruin college football. It's going to ruin high school football. And you're not going to have the NFL because these kids are just going to stay in college.
Well, you got a point there, because Diego Pavia just got his injunction that says his JUCO year doesn't count as a year. So now you got Diego Pavia taking a roster spot away from somebody who should be the starting quarterback of Vanderbilt next year.
That's a travesty. A bunch of crap that started with COVID, and you're going to have a 45-year-old still in college playing football and making millions of dollars. So why does he need to go to the NFL? The NFL is going to end up suffering from it.
Yeah, he's not going to end up being an NFL quality quarterback. So, I mean, I understand why Diego Pavia wants to do it. He's having a blast. He's having fun. He's winning football games. He's getting NIL money. All of a sudden, this gift gets dropped in his lap that says, hey, Diego, you get to go make another $500,000 this year. I don't know how much Diego Pavia makes in his NIL. Just saying. You get to go make another $500,000 to stay at Vanderbilt. Or he gets to say, hey, Vanderbilt, I need you to up that to $750,000 or $1 million. If not, I'm going to go somewhere else because I'm a star and you need to star at quarterback. This thing continues to spiral. And look, I mean, we had Rob Brown on the show on Monday. He says, I'm still a big proponent of NIL. I don't see how you can. I genuinely don't see how anyone thinks this is healthy for the sport of college football anymore. When we come back, something that I'm taking credit for it. Cole and I are taking credit for the existence and the occurrence of a play that happened in last night's Thursday Night Football that has not happened for 48 years. We'll talk about that on the other side on the Fan Upstate. If you didn't watch Thursday Night Football last night, you missed something that hasn't happened in the NFL in 48 years. And somehow, some way, Cole and I predicted that it would happen before it happened. I feel like Matt Groening, the writer of The Simpsons, who predicts just about everything, right? I think it's because they have so many episodes that whatever cockamamie situation they put on tape in that episode just eventually will come true, right? Some form of it will come true. But we've been running this promo now for a couple of months where I tested Cole's knowledge of the NFL rule book. And I guarantee you've heard this promo at some point. Ben, would you hit it and they can hear this promo?
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
So we're going to test you, Cole, on the NFL rule book. How can the kicking team of a field goal attempt said field goal without facing a rush? There's three options. Option A, by alerting the referee that they're going to kick a field goal. Proceeding it with a fair catch. That's option number 2. And then option number 3, by taking a 15-yard penalty.
I don't even understand what it's asking. That's not possible.
According to this, it is.
I'll go B.
You go B, by preceding it by a fair catch. That is correct. So here's the ruling here.
Yes.
The NFL rule book is tough, man. It says after a punt returner fair catches a punt, teams can utilize this rule to attempt an untimed, unrushed field goal.
Wire to Wire with Diesel.
There you go. That's, in a nutshell, describes what happened last. Not exactly what happened, but here's how this went down, okay? End of the first half, Thursday Night Football, Broncos, Chargers. Denver punted the ball away to LA. But they didn't leave enough time left on the clock. So I think they punted the ball with like 8 seconds to go. So they punt the ball. LA signals for a fair catch. But a Broncos cover guy hits him, drawing a penalty. Then LA got to move the ball forward because of the penalty yards, and they were able to make a choice. Do they want to have one play on an untimed down, or do they want to attempt a 57-yard field goal? And that's what they chose to do. So here's the NFL rule, quote, directly from the NFL rule book. After a fair catch is made or awarded as the result of a fair catch interference, the receiving team has the option of putting the ball in play by a snap, that would be the untimed down, or a fair catch kick, drop kick, or place kick without a tee from the spot of the catch or succeeding spot after enforcement of any applicable penalties. This includes the 15-yard penalty enforced from the receiving team's 20-yard line, yada, yada, yada. The rest of that part doesn't matter. What matters is that Denver ran into the LA receiver, adding 15 yards, and because it happened as time expired in the play, they got the untimed down to attempt an unrushed field goal. Now, I don't know what the all-time long field goal is in the NFL, but 57 yards is a long kick. I mean, you got to hit low trajectory, a lot of boot into it, and you're unlikely to hit a 57-yarder. I mean, these guys are getting better and better every year, right? They're unlikely to hit a 57-yarder, but when you have no rush, when you're not trying to kick it over your line, when you're not trying to kick it over their line, the guys with their hands up, you can really just blast on that football, launch it at a low angle, and he hit. Yeah, he hit. Dicker the kicker. Got it done. Got it done. That was awesome. Here's what it sounded like on Thursday Night Football. And this is kind of a supercut of everything that happened to get us to that situation.
Jim Harbaugh's going to call a timeout.
Darius Davis, who's dangerous, is back. Chargers try to set up a return. Fair catch is called for. He goes down. Ball is loose. And whatever happens here with the flag down.
Options. They can either snap the ball or they can do a free kick for a field goal,
15-yard
which we haven't seen in forever.
We just said crazy things are going to happen here.
Can he bang it through? On its way, it is. Yep.
Made history tonight.
Yes.
And my text line or my Twitter blew up. Everybody's like, Diesel, you got to go see what happened. Did you see what happened? You guys predicted it. By the way, the longest field goal in NFL history was 66 yards. Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens against the Lions on September 26th, 2021. 66 yards. That's monstrous. That is monstrous leg. But it's so wild that we predicted some way and somehow that it would happen, because it hasn't happened in the NFL for 48 years. Texter says the big fajita of Infinity Sports Network said, raise your hand if you knew the rule. And he don't believe us. I tagged y'all in the tweet. Go get him. It's such a convoluted rule. Like, you guys are all over NFL referees for sucking at their jobs, right? Maybe it's because in the back of their mind, they're like, they're reading this rule over and over and over again. And that's why they miss the obvious holding, because you make them do stupid things like this. You make them remember stupid rules like this. Texter says Harbaugh must be a secret Tolo and got the idea from listening. That comes from Corn Chip. You know what, Jim? We appreciate you listening. Appreciate you being a Tolo. Would love your participation a little more often. You know, don't Tolo from afar. Be a part of the show. Be a part of the show. Text in. Let us know it's you, would you? Texter says, everyone wants to hate on Dabo, but history will prove him to be right. This is going back to the NIL conversation from the previous segment. NIL will hurt college football programs and universities. History will prove Dabo to be right. Look, I think Dabo's is right. I've never said that Dabo is wrong for taking the stance that he's taking. I think it's a brilliant stance to take. I think it's not brilliant, valiant. It's a valiant stance to take. The only problem is it doesn't really work anymore. I mean, I know that they're in the playoff, and you could point to that and say, oh, well, they're in the playoff. Has them in a position where they were close enough to get into the playoff. I just had them in a position where they were close enough. And then they took care of business against SMU in the ACC championship game. They needed some help. They got there. They got the win. It is what it is. Wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. You still have time to get in your last upset pick of the season. Tolos. We've had a couple of you already. Trey from Kentucky. He's taking Rutgers versus Kansas State for 7 points. I got you, Trey from Kentucky. Had one come in earlier as well from Scotty Mack. He's taking Washington State plus 14.5 over Kyle McCord and Syracuse. Kyle McCord's going to play. Daniel LaRusso's going to fight. Kyle McCord's going to play. Yeah, look, we talked about NIL in that whole first segment. There's the director of bowl season believes, doesn't know this to be true for sure, but believes that language is being written into these guys' contracts to make them play their games, or pay them to play in their bowl games. They're not taking any time off. I just think it's awesome that we were able to, in some way, shape, or form, predict that this was going to happen, because I mean, it has to be fate, right? It has to be kismet. It has to be something special. Anybody want to come, rub my head right now? And I can give you tomorrow's winning lottery numbers, because I feel like that's what we did on this show. It's unbelievable. And even trying to read the situations to Cole in that promo, it just sounded convoluted just reading it. Just sounded convoluted. It's crazy, man. It's fun. Like Thursday Night Football, not the most watchable product on television. A lot of people aren't into the Kirk Herbstreit, Al Michaels combo. I think it's okay. Doesn't blow me away. Thursday Night Football usually isn't a great football game, but last night it was. Last night we had a really good matchup of two really good football teams. JD says, can you say Gamecocks win the national championship in football next year? JD. Now, JD, as much as I would love to make that happen for you, I think your chances are better on a PS5. But I do think South Carolina is going to be good next year. Very good. I think South Carolina has a decent shot, assuming you can get a good running back out of the portal. I think you have a good shot of making the college football playoff next year. I genuinely believe that. I think they're a good football team. And the SEC, like we had all the chaos this year. We had a lot of chaos this year. We had a G5 team getting a playoff bye. We had an ACC team in Clemson coming out of nowhere, coming out of like literally from the back of the pack on the last stretch to get in. Otherwise, the ACC only would have gotten one team in. If SMU wins that game, there's no other ACC team getting into this thing. Madcrafter says, Diesel, can you say the sun exploded 30 minutes ago? Did it? I mean, how long does it take for radiation to reach the earth? If it exploded 30 minutes ago, how long would it take for us to know? It's funny. Ben, producer over here, we were talking before the show started about that movie, Don't Look Up. If you ever saw Don't Look Up, there's an asteroid coming towards the earth, and nobody believed that the asteroid was coming because we're so politicized and so divided that half the people said, it's not even a real asteroid at all.
Yeah, they're like, what are we going to do about it now?
Yeah.
Too late.
I mean, didn't you see the movie Armageddon? We're going to fly. Bruce Willis is going to fly up there in a spaceship and drop a nuke on it. America. Yeah. Pilots are going to go to a strip club before they do it. They're going to do this whole thing hungover because they're cowboys, baby. Can't stop them. MD75 says, apparently Harbaugh said in his presser after the game that he's been looking for an opportunity to do that play and had tried it once before, but it ... but it was like 70 plus yards and it failed. It's fun. It's fun when these random rules show themselves. It's fun. When we come back on the other side of the break, Clemson fans, South Carolina fans, Furman and Wofford fans, I want to know your favorite sports moments from your teams in the calendar year 2024. Be ready to call in, text in, 844-326-3663. Would love for you to be a vocal part of the show. Like, what moment in your team's sports calendar year 2024 do you smile at? You're like, yeah, it was a good year. It was a good moment. That's on the other side. Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. Brandon Gosnell going Duke over Ole Miss for 14.5 points. Brandon, I'm not sure with Duke's quarterback transferring out if that's necessarily the wisest pick. But hey, I mean, it's bowl season. Anything could happen. Ole Miss could be one of those teams that they talk about that they just their hearts just weren't in it. They were a superior team, but they didn't really want to be there. I hate that crap. Bowl season is a beautiful, wonderful thing. We get football in the middle of the day. We got a 30-27 live football game going on right now between Ohio, not Ohio State, Ohio, the Bobcats, the green ones, 10-3, going against a 9-4 Jacksonville State, 30-27, 2 minutes and 16 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. This is a beautiful thing. You know what? I do think bowl season has to be reduced. I do think that there's no reason to have 6-win teams going at each other out there. I think how you fix bowl season is you actually put good teams in these bowl games. You got to raise the minimum record from 6-6 to 8-4 or 9-3. Can we do that? You know, a lot of these bowls, these sponsors are so broke. They're only sponsoring the game for a season or two, and then they're going to sell the rights off to somebody else. You need to combine. You need to put this thing together with like multiple sponsors on one bowl. I know it may take 10 minutes just to say the name of the bowl games, but whatever. It'll still be the Cure Bowl, but it could be the Cure Bowl brought to you by like a white girl ordering a drink at Starbucks. You know, it takes 5 minutes to actually say the name of the drink. 30-27 game. That's a good football game. But your favorite sports moments of 2024. Gamecock fans, you got an awful lot to cheer about. You had a lot of good things happen for you in 2024. A lot of good things. And I'm talking across the sports spectrum. Undefeated national championship season culminating in March of 2024. You had a 9-win regular season in football. You beat your rival. Hey, you just beat your rival in basketball this year. Like that, you got a lot of things to cheer about. Is there a moment though that makes you say, "Oh, that's that one moment"? Like that's the one that you screenshot on your phone, you make it the backdrop on your phone, and you stare at it for a year until something else awesome happens, and you change it. What is your favorite sports moment of 2024? Be a part of the show. 844-326-3663. JD, Madcraft, Dan B, all of you guys watching the stream. Get in on this. Be a part of the show. Call in. Interact, would you? My team's sucked this year. It's been a hard year for me as an App State fan. A really, really hard year. Like last year, our basketball team, really good. Probably the best basketball team we've had at App State in 15 years. And then the end of the season happens. And then the transfer portal happens. Like if the guys that transferred out, we lost more than half of the bodies on our team to the transfer portal. Elite center, he's at Georgia. Really good point guard, he's over at Wake Forest. Another guy shoots threes. He bricked a lot of threes. I don't really care that much about seeing him go. But we had a lot of good players leave the team at the end of this season. So last year was great. That doesn't matter in 2024, though. Football team was down. Was expected to be a really, really good season. Football team was down this year, and we got a new head coach in Dowell Loggins. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not all that stoked about Dowell Loggins as a head coach. I'm not stoked. You're not sad to see him go, Gamecock fans. You weren't sad to see him go. Y'all were like, yes, he's gone. And he's also struggling to build a staff. The first guy he targeted as a DC got hired right out from under him by Dan Mullen at UNLV. Let's go to the phone lines. Bring on Harold. Harold, 2024, has it been good to you or bad to you as a sports fan?
Oh, I've enjoyed it. It's been one of the best. 2 games, both of them right there together. That comeback over Missouri with Rocket Sanders' run. Mm-hmm. And it has to be Lenore Sellers' run against Clemson to put them ahead.
Yeah.
Right there. And better than that interception from Cade Klubnik right after that to really put the game on ice.
How nervous were you, Harold? I know you're a Navy man. I didn't realize you were a hardcore Gamecock fan as well. How nervous were you when Clemson finally seemed to get off the mat in the second half, that last drive that ended up in the interception? Were you getting nervous right at that point?
Oh, yeah, because it wasn't about much time, and I've heard the game before, with Clemson, about a minute left, and come down and kick a field goal anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very nervous, but that's why I said, but that interception, that was great. But one other thing, I want to talk about this field goal. Tom, you know who Tom Dempsey was, don't you, for the Saints?
No, I don't.
Well, he was a club footer, kicked the first 64-yard field goal against the Detroit Lions. And nobody had ever kicked that. And what was so funny, Alex Harris.
I'm looking at him right now. His right foot looks like a horse's hoof.
Right, it's a club foot he had.
Yeah.
He had a special shoe. It was 64 yards. And Alex Harris, after he said, I hit my guy, but I wanted to stand up and turn around so I could get a bird's eye view. Oh, he was funny. Alex Harris anyway. But anyways, that's my two. That Missouri cost me 19.5 points. When I went off with Stanford. So anyway, but I've been a Gamecock fan since Jim Carlin come on in '74.
There you go.
So that's why I say for 50 years.
Gotcha. Well, Harold, I'm going to say it. I think I've said it to you the last 2 days that you've called in, but I'm going to say it again. We very much appreciate you being a listener of this show. Mad at you for taking some time off, but hey, you're back, and that's what matters, and we appreciate you listening.
I'm not going nowhere. When it gets to the point, listen, I just don't care for the NBA, and I ain't really that much on the NFL,
Ooh.
But when it comes to baseball season, you'll be hearing a lot from me.
There you go. You know what, Harold, you're a man of my own heart, because I don't care that much about the NBA either. It doesn't hurt that the Charlotte Hornets suck again this year. They're no good. So they're not giving us anything to cheer about.
Well, I'm going to give you credit. I think you might have expanded my life this year by me going over and listening to y'all's show, and I really enjoyed it. I can remember back in my day, listening to this sports and betting on football games and all that. But listen, y'all got me hooked on this upset thing now.
It's fun.
So, I can't quit that. Like I said, I'm still confident. I'm shooting for 80 points next year if I'm still around.
There you go, Harold. Appreciate your call. They have that saying that if you're a golfer and you can shoot your age, you're doing well. If you're a 70-year-old golfer and you can still shoot 70, you're doing really well for yourself. I don't know if Harold's going to do it next year, but I hope he does. Man, if Harold calls his shot, what would be the bigger shock if Harold calls his shot, he hits his 80 points next year, or us having a promo running for a couple of months saying, hey, here's this really obscure rule, and then it happens in the same football season. There's some magic going on here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Remember, we're going to be back together on the 2nd of January. Cole is going to take the week of Christmas off. He'll be back for a couple of days the following week before New Year's. New Year's, we're off for a company holiday. Monday, Tuesday, the 2nd, is when we will return for the show. And that's when you will be texting into the show at 844-326-3663. Speaking of texting into the show, maybe for the very last time in 2024 and ever, if that's how you want to do it, that's okay. We have to crown a winner in the best Christmas movie ever. We are down to the finals, and the matchup will be presented, and you will have your chance to vote in the very next segment. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, on the free Odyssey app, and at thefanupstate.com. Samson on the stream says NIL is trash. You make a compelling argument. Samson, you're not wrong. I think it's the first time I've ever seen you on the stream. Welcome. If you've never been a part of the stream before, jump in. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at The Fan Upstate. Super easy to find. However you like to get in there, you can chop it up with the other Tolos. It looks like most of our Tolos watch on YouTube. Unfortunately, the one downside to this platform is that you can only communicate with people who are on the same platform as you. So when Wesley Roberts messages in from Facebook at 3:18 early in the show, I don't think the Tolos who are watching on YouTube can see that. Now I can, because we get all of them sent to our feed, but I think only you can only jump in and chat with the Tolos who are on the same platform as you. A lot of you have been asking, when are you guys going to pay off the best Christmas movie? When are you going to do the best Christmas movie? We've been waiting for it. You've been doing it for a week and a half. When are you going to make this thing happen, make it official? Well, right now is the time. Right now is when you, the Tolos, who put all these movies into the bracket in the first place, are going to decide what the best Christmas movie is. Now, to recap and let you in on how it is that we got here, Cole put together a bracket of 24 movies as nominated by you. You put these movies on the list, and if a movie is not on the list, well, that's your fault. That's your fault, because you weren't paying attention. You didn't see the post where he requested the movies be added, and you were not a part of that. The movies that started this thing out: Elf, Christmas with the Cranks, Polar Express, Home Alone. Home Alone 2 was on the list. Frosty the Snowman, Jingle All the Way, Christmas Vacation, and Die Hard made up one side of the bracket. On the other side, you had A Christmas Story. You had Charlie Brown's Christmas, Jack Frost, The Grinch, Santa Claus #1. You had Christmas Carol, Medea's Christmas. That one didn't stand a chance. I mean, let's be real. Come on now. That didn't stand a chance. It's a Wonderful Life and Miracle on 34th Street. All great movies. Like none of these are bad movies. I could sit down and watch any one of these right now and be real happy. Especially Die Hard, because I don't give a rip what you say. It is a Christmas movie. If there's a Santa hat in it, it's a Christmas movie. But how we got to the finals, which is Home Alone versus A Christmas Story, is that Home Alone defeated Polar Express, Die Hard, which is nuts, right? I thought you Tolos, you bunch of dudes, ready to drink, ready to fight dudes, would have taken Die Hard all the way to the finals in this thing. But I'm getting a better sense of who you are. I'm surprised at who some of you are, because most of you voted for Home Alone in that matchup, and it just absolutely ran roughshod over Bruce Willis and Die Hard, which I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought John McClane, he could take on anybody, right? It beat Christmas Vacation, which hurts my heart in a major way, but I get it. Christmas Vacation is a more mature movie than Home Alone, and some of you, especially around Christmas time, like to be reminded of your childhood. You like to be childish, and Christmas Vacation, just not the movie for you. And that's fine. You're wrong. And it also took out Jingle All the Way. Now, A Christmas Story, that's a different one. That's an all-time classic. It defeated Charlie Brown's Christmas. It defeated It's a Wonderful Life, right? Like the grizzled veteran of this thing. It beat Bad Santa, which I love that movie. You can't watch it with the kids. Dan B says, I predict Die Hard to win it all, so I'm with you, D. Yeah, it's a great movie. Mad Crafter says, if Die Hard is a Christmas movie, then just Friends with Ryan Reynolds is. Oh, Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds is too. I never saw Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds. I didn't know you were that much of a fan of rom-coms, Mad Crafter. I didn't know. You like the Hallmark movies too? Anyway, it also took out The Grinch. So here we go. Tolos. Here we go in the final matchup. And we're going to do this official, okay? we'd done this very informal because we were blasting through a lot of these matchups very, very quickly. So we did this thing very informal. We're going to do this thing formally now, right? So 1990s Home Alone versus 1983's A Christmas Story. We're going to take you back to those movies here for just a second, give you a little reminder of what it is you're voting for if you need to kind of process this. Here's the best of Home Alone.
This is my house. I have to defend it. Bless this highly nutritious microwavable macaroni and cheese dinner and the people who sold it on sale. Amen.
Marv! Harry? Why the hell did you take your shoes off?
Why the hell you dressed like a chicken?
You guys give up or you're thirsty for more? Guys, I'm eating junk and watching rubbish. You better come out and stop me.
Kids are scared of the dark.
You're afraid of the dark too, Marv. You know you.
I wouldn't let you sleep in my room if you were growing on my ass.
Is this toothbrush approved by the American Dental Association?
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Kevin! Are you here all by yourself? I'm 8 years old. You think I'd be here alone? I don't think so.
God, it's such a great movie. Buzz was great. He's such a great villain in the movie. The wet bandits, the sticky bandits in part number 2. Home Alone was so good. Home Alone was so good. And Rob Brown tried to argue that Home Alone isn't a Christmas movie. Are you serious? Are you serious? Ben, weigh in here. Is Home Alone a Christmas movie?
Well, it's among the best. I mean,
right?
Easily.
Rob tried to claim on these airwaves, and this is why you can tell Rob Brown is not a serious person. Rob Brown tried to say that you could take the plot of Home Alone, plop it around any other holiday, and it would be the exact same movie. Like Home Alone on 4th of July. No.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
No,
right.
It's about wanting to be with family. Like
nothing like the stress of the holidays.
Right. He hated his family. They drove him nuts. So he thought he wished them away. And then over the course of his trials and tribulations of the movie, he learns, oh, I actually do love my family and I want to be around my family. And he's learning what Christmas is actually about.
Right. Almost like Scrooge did.
Yeah.
Only like a young, it was like a new.
The fact that nobody even nominated Scrooged blows me away. Bill Murray's Scrooged.
True.
Great movie. So it's going head to head with A Christmas Story, a movie that gets so much airplay every single year, 2 television channels, and eventually, why not go to a third, that play this movie on repeat every Christmas day. And they start it, if the movie is an hour and a half long, they start it every 45 minutes so that no matter what time you turn on the TV, you're no more than 45 minutes away from starting the movie over again. It's absolutely brilliant what they do. I think it's TBS and TNT, I think. But to remind yourself of just how great A Christmas Story is, here you go.
Fragile. It must be Italian.
You want me to go to bat for one? You want me to go to bat for one? You go to bat for the other?
Drag me away from the soft glow of electric sex gleaming in the window. He had yellow eyes, so help me God, yellow eyes.
I triple dog dare you. Oh, fudge.
Only I didn't say fudge. I said the word, the big one, the queen mother of dirty words, the F-dash word.
I think all of us remember the first time we cursed in front of our parents. And I still don't like cursing in front of my parents, but occasionally I do. I'll be talking to my mom on the phone and I'll drop something in there. I still feel weird doing it. Because you're taught as a kid, don't curse at your parents. Don't curse at your parents. So, Tolos, here's how you can start getting your votes in. And I think we're going to let this thing run for the entire 4 o'clock hour. I think. We're doing this official. To vote, text 71307 like you normally do, and just include the words alone or story. So alone is a vote for Home Alone. Story is a vote for A Christmas Story. Don't put any other words in there. Don't put the word fan on there. Don't put Home Alone. Don't put A Christmas Story because it confuses the text line. The computers ain't that smart. We don't have AI working on our side of the thing. Okay? So 71307, text the word alone to vote for Home Alone or text the word story to vote for A Christmas Story. Which one was the better Christmas movie? Ben, who gets your vote? I know it's a hard one to pick.
Both are very deep, close to home for sure. But I'm going to go with A Christmas Story. I know you're about Home Alone.
I love Home Alone
for sure. That one was a classic, and
it's like straight shot to the giggle box.
The whole franchise, it was great. It was awesome.
Home Alone 3, garbage. Come on now.
I thought I was still about it. Come on now.
No, you weren't.
No, well, I'm going in for A Christmas Story now, anyways.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, it was nostalgic. It was nostalgic. It was funny the first time you watch it. Funny the 60th time you watch it. It was just endearing, all the way down to the tongue stuck to the pole.
Yeah. Triple dog dare you. I triple dog dare you.
And the leg lamp.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, the leg lamp. You got a place for that?
What is it? It's a lamp. It's a major award.
Fragile.
That's a great movie. Look, the neighbor's dogs coming in and eating the thing, and then him accusing his wife of using up all the glue on purpose so that he couldn't fix his leg lamp.
And
brilliant.
It does get modern points too, because that kid grew up and then starred in Elf as a cameo. That's true. That was the
he was in Elf, wasn't he?
That was awesome. Yeah, he was one of the elves in the North Pole. So that was all right.
Nice. It's a good movie. It's good, but it's not Home Alone. I mean, come on. Now, I will dock Home Alone a couple of points because it's a slow start. Because you don't realize that all of the mayhem that happens when Harry and Marv get into the house, and he's putting the ornaments down on the ground to make them cut their feet when they come through the door. It's the blowtorch to the head. It's the paint cans coming down off of the banister. It's lighting the rope on fire that they tried to use to go from the house to the tree house. All of that stuff happens in like the last 20 minutes of the movie. Like there's so much in between, but that stuff is like endearing too. So here you go. You got this little kid who's a precocious little, 4-letter word. And like a lot of you have kids that are like Kevin McAllister. Like you're smiling right now saying, I love this little son of a, but he's a jerk, right? He's a jerk. So he's got to learn how to live on his own. And he figures out that he's terrified of living on his own, that he loves his mother, that he loves his brother, that he loves all of his weird cousins. And so there's a message to the movie. A texter says, he said something about the bandits were only able to rob from that neighborhood because of everyone's Christmas vacation travels. This comes from Fred S. See, there you go. Fred S. making a great case for Home Alone being a Christmas movie on no other holiday besides maybe Thanksgiving. Maybe you could put that movie at Thanksgiving. Maybe. But they're all everybody's traveling because this is a rich neighborhood, right? Everybody's traveling. The houses are empty. Texter says Christmas Story 2 was released last year, original cast, and surprisingly great. I haven't seen Christmas Story 2.
I didn't see it.
But I saw a meme come up the other day, Texter, that you don't think of the mom from A Christmas Story in anything else. Like you can picture the mom right now, right? Kind of frizzy hair, exhausted. Her husband's kind of a domineering jerk who's inconsiderate. She's got a couple of crazy kids, in 1950s, just worn out, right? Not enough hours in the day.
Right.
But she's actually in other movies. And there's one movie, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, that they put a screenshot of these two side by side. She's actually a smoke show. And not in 1950s drab colors. She's actually pretty hot. You don't think of her as a hot mom in that movie, but she actually is. Texter says, how would Harry be heading out? How would Harry be head out from? God, this is hard. How would Harry be head out from being on fire if it was 4th of July? Oh, how would he put his head out from being on fire if it was 4th of July? I don't know. Did Clark Griswold ever get to install that swimming pool? That's how you would put it. Now that would be a movie. Now that come on. Like that's the crossover we need, right? We need Harry and Marv to break into Clark Griswold's house, and then real hijinks would ensue.
Yeah, I think DeVito carried Home Alone for a little bit there.
I mean, think about Danny DeVito at the time. He was doing all the mob movies. Like he was doing Goodfellas and Casino and all those movies. Like he was known as a tough guy. And then here he is in this comedy and he kills it. Like he's playing a bad guy. He's still kind of playing a mobster guy. Yeah.
He was the cop in the beginning.
Yeah, he was casing the house. Yeah, he was casing the house. Cheesehead Corey, wouldn't Planes, Trains, and Automobiles then be considered a Christmas movie? Wasn't that movie set at Thanksgiving? I think that was set at Thanksgiving, Cheesehead Corey. Right? It's been a long time since I've seen. Oh, Joe Pesci. It's Joe Pesci. Who did we say?
I said DeVito. Sorry about that, guys.
It was Joe
Pesci.
God.
He was the man, though.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Been a long time since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure that was a Thanksgiving movie. How are the votes going so far? That's what you Tolos are going to want to know. So far, it's a tight race. One vote separates A Christmas Story and Home Alone. What was the better Christmas movie? 71307. Send me the word alone if you're voting for Home Alone. Send the word story if you're voting for A Christmas Story. Do not put the word fan in your text. System is not that advanced. It can't figure it out if you put the word fan first. So just text alone or story for the best Christmas movie ever. We've spent a lot of time breaking down this Clemson versus Texas game. We've had 2 weeks to break down this Clemson versus Texas game, and I still don't feel like I have a good sense of who's going to win this thing, right? Like Clemson's got a great passing attack, but they got no run game right now. The problem is Texas has a really good pass defense, but they haven't beaten a team that finished ranked in the top 25. I had a conversation yesterday with Eric Henry of Horns 247. He knows everything and all things Texas Longhorns. We're going to replay that conversation for you next on the other side, right here on The Fan Upstates. And we've discussed this game ad nauseum. Clemson at Texas, the injury issues that Clemson faces and the injury issues that Texas faces. I'm ready for these two teams to suit up and hit each other in the mouth. And to talk about that very game, we go to the phone lines, bring in for the first time on the show, Eric Henry, who works for Horns 24/7. He's joining the show for the first time. Eric, around here, it's a mixed bag trying to gauge how a lot of Clemson fans feel about this game. There's quite a bit of despair. There's also quite a bit of Clemson fans looking at Texas's record and their schedule at the end of the season and not seeing a team that finished in the top 25 in the win column for Texas. So 1 to 10, how do you and how do Texas Longhorns fans feel confidence-wise going into this game, again, that's 48 hours from right now?
First off, good afternoon. Appreciate you having me on. In terms of, I'll break it down first with me. I feel pretty confident regarding Texas entering this matchup. I know the argument has been that Texas hasn't played very many, top-tier teams, right? And listen, I've always said Texas can't control the fact that Michigan looked like, words I won't use on the air, but let's just say they left a lot to be desired in terms of their season this year, right? That's not something that's in Texas's control. The same thing for Oklahoma. I think Texas went out and took care of business against most of the teams they should have. The obvious exception is the way they performed twice against Georgia. If you want to kind of provide fire to that argument or ammunition to that argument, it would be the way they performed against Georgia. But I feel confident in Texas' ability to put forth their at least a version of their best game, because quite frankly, that's all it's been this year. It's been, especially the offense, a version of their best game. The defense has been there all year. The offense has been a mixed bag. Now, if you ask Texas fans that question, I think they're cautiously optimistic. I think, again, they feel very confident that Texas' defense, again, you can say, same thing. They haven't faced, quote unquote, the premier top SEC teams. But I also think the way that Texas' defense has gone on and performed has been consistent all the way through, including against Georgia. I think they feel confident, but they're cautiously optimistic about the offense.
Eric, how are you feeling about Quinn Ewers' ability to, physically bounce back off of that ankle injury? I know that Steve Sarkisian said that, he was feeling better coming out of the Georgia game than he was going into the Georgia game. So he's got maybe a little bit of residual physical issue going on with that ankle. I know a couple different Texas players have ankle issues, offensive line, wide receiver as well. And then how do you feel about his ability to kind of mentally bounce back coming off of that second loss to Georgia this year?
Yeah, first, when you talk about the injuries, and I'll just cover it across the board, whether it's Quinn, left tackle Kelvin Banks, wide receiver Isaiah Bond. The feeling is that all of them are going to be good to go on Saturday. Now, definitely different degrees of good to go. Isaiah Bond, when we had, and it was a very brief open availability that Steve Sarkisian allowed for us on Monday in terms of their practice availability, Isaiah Bond did not participate in the media's portion. Kelvin Banks and Quinn Ewers did. In specificity to Quinn, I think he's going to be good. That ankle injury was just kind of weird timing because he just started to seem like he was, let's just say, trusting himself with that abdominal injury that cost him a couple of games in the middle of the year. Just starting to trust himself in terms of being willing to tuck it and run, specifically on third downs, an area that Quinn Ewers over the past 2 years has thrived, picking up timely first downs on third and longs when, the defense has been in man coverage and the defenders turned their back and he's willing to run and scramble. He just kind of was getting the feel back for that when the ankle situation happened. But Quinn seems to be fine. I think especially with a couple of weeks of rest, he's going to be okay and good to go. I think more than anything else, and I hate to psychoanalyze Quinn. I've never liked doing that in the 2 years I've been on the beat. But I think it's just going to be mental. I think it's Quinn getting that confidence back that he can be the guy who performed like he did prior to the abdominal injury, who looked like he was primed for a Heisman Trophy candidate type of year. But of course, we saw how things played out. They really kind of went off the rails post the injuries.
Talking to Eric Henry, Horns 24/7 on the Texas Longhorns beat for the 24/7 network. How much is being made there in the state of Texas about the Cade Klubnik-Quinn Ewers rematch from the state championship game in 2020? There were some opportunities there. It's odd the way that the CFP decided to place both Clemson and SMU. There could have been an interesting storyline of putting SMU against Texas. I know it's been quite a while since those two teams have played each other. They maybe decided this based on a rematch of Cade versus Quinn. Is that a big deal? I know, high school football in the state of Texas is on a completely different level. Is that something that's a conversational buzz down there?
Yeah, listen, it certainly is here in Austin. You talk about the fact that Cade Klubnik went to one of the premier programs here in Central Texas, Austin Westlake. Not only just, him coming back to his hometown, but the fact that it's really unique. You take a look at this matchup. You have Michael Taft, who's Texas safety, really good friends with Cade Klubnik, was a high school teammate of Cade, and now he's going to go against him. Ethan Burke, Colton Bosick, also Westlake chaps. They were all on one team together playing against Quinn Ewer's South Lake Carroll team, South Lake Carroll Dragons, and it was Westlake who got the better of South Lake that day. Actually, Michael Taft, now teammates with Quinn Ewers, picked off Quinn Ewers to kind of seal that game. So especially here in Central Texas, no, there's no doubt it is definitely a big-time storyline. All of the local TVs have been out to Westlake, wanted to talk to people. It was a talking point on Monday with Michael Taft when he had his media availability. So definitely a storyline coming into this. And I think, listen, especially, piggybacking off the question you asked me earlier in relation to Quinn Ewers, it's going to be a big storyline. It's not that Texas fans, quote unquote, wanted Cade Klubnik over Quinn Ewers. If my memory serves me correct in that recruitment, Texas was never a real factor. But you talk about a hometown kid coming home, and if he's able to lead DKR, Texas Memorial Stadium, with a win over a quarterback in Quinn Ewers, who I hate to say legacy, but his, kind of standing with Texas fans is very mixed right now. It's a storyline entering Saturday.
Eric, how do you see Steve Sarkisian and DC Pete Kwiatkowski playing cat and mouse with Dabo, with Garrett Riley, and with Cade Klubnik, knowing that Clemson's offense is severely depleted at the running back position? Obviously, Cade can throw the ball all over the field. He's had lots of games this season where he put up just gigantic numbers throwing the football. But I can imagine that maybe there's a desire to hang back and see if you could put Clemson into some bad situations and get some turnovers over early and put this game away early.
Yeah, I'll take it from the defensive side of the ball first. Defensive guard Pete Kwiatkowski, like you talked about, someone who is really highly regarded, especially amongst these Texas players, for being able to put them in position to have success. One of the things that Steve Sarkisian said repeatedly about PK is that he doesn't fall into a rhythm as a defensive play caller. He kind of leaves a couple of play calls, things that the offensive side of the ball might not be able to anticipate, save them for timely third downs or timely situations. Steve Sarkisian talks about really appreciating that about PK. So he's really well regarded. I think that cat and mouse game is going to be interesting, especially you talk about the history. Garrett Riley having been at TCU, so obviously there's a measure of familiarity with the two coordinators. Now to flip it to the offensive side of the ball, that's where I think things get really interesting. I think this is, again, I don't want to be too dramatic and say it's a make or break type game, but I would go as far as to say a proving type of game for Steve Sarkisian, someone who, of course, is widely known as an offensive mastermind, one of the more creative offensive minds in college football. But I don't think it's out of bounds to say that Steve Sarkisian was, quite frankly, outcoached in the two meetings against Georgia. Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann and company, of course, excellent defensive minds. Those games saw Steve Sarkisian, quite frankly, outdone, especially with Texas' inability to find 7 points instead of 3 in the red zone, most notably the SEC title game in which they just had to settle for too many field goals. So that's something that I think definitely is going to be interesting because Steve Sarkisian will want to show, hey, I can hack it with the best defensive minds in college football as well. He's going to have a huge opportunity on Saturday.
Eric Henry of Horns 24/7 joining us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Certainly there's not a lot of shame in losing to a national championship winning coach in Dabo Swinney if that were to be the outcome of this game. But we all know that college football fans aren't exactly rational people. We see the way Ohio State fans feel about Ryan Day. He's got an absurd winning percentage, but he's not beating Michigan. So it drives them absolutely nuts. You got Penn State fans who feel like James Franklin just cannot win the big games. If Texas loses this game, does that narrative start to twist and turn on Steve Sarkisian as well? I mean, I got to think the Texas fans are really happy with what he's done so far, but just how short of a leash does he have with Longhorns fans?
That's a really interesting question. It's interesting you raise it because it's been a bit of a talking point over on our boards in terms of what is the feeling. And Steve Sarkisian, I'm just going to give you my 2 cents. Like I said, I've done this beat for 2 years, but I think you have to view Texas football in a broader scope, right? I mean, this is a program that prior to Steve Sarkisian's arrival, I don't think I'm out of bounds for saying this. They were bordering on, more or less irrelevant, kind of being a punchline. I look at them. I'm a native Floridian. I kind of look at them in terms of the years pre-Steve Sarkisian from 2009 up until Sark's arrival, very much in that same realm you view like Miami for the past 2 decades, where you're living off of your prior glory, but what were they in current college football times? Now, I say all that to say, you look at Steve Sarkisian getting Texas to back-to-back college football playoff appearances, back-to-back conference championship appearances, one conference championship trophy. It's something that he noted. I want to say it was, if memory serves me correct, entering the Texas A&M game. He was like, hey, guys, let's not forget, and this was his message to Longhorn Nation, let's not forget what it was for the last decade around here. So I think it shouldn't be a referendum on Steve Sarkisian should they lose. However, no Texas fan would be out of bounds in saying, hey, look at the amount of talent we've had the past 2 years. Double-digit NFL draft picks 2023 this year, going to be pushing that again, and to not come away with at least a national championship game appearance, it would be a fair critique, but I don't think it's one that it's all right. Well, all of a sudden, the clock is ticking on Steve Sarkisian, and do we need to go another direction? Because you saw what that direction was for the better part of the last decade and a half.
Eric, one thing that really concerns me about Clemson's defense is their ability to get players down on the ground in space, or really the lack thereof. Certainly, they've got talent. Sammy Brown at linebacker is going to be a phenomenal talent as he grows and ages a little bit inside this Clemson program. Talk a little bit about Texas's run game and their ability to really bounce off of guys and pick up extra yardage, because if they can do that, this could be a very long day for Clemson.
Texas's run game has been a really mixed bag this year. If you took a look at the early part of the year, let's just call it the first 6 games, they're relying really heavily on the chunk play. And quite frankly, if you take a look at Texas's 3 longest runs this year, they're from non-running backs. Arch Manning, Ryan Wingo, and Isaiah Bond. They're relying way too heavily on the chunk play. Then the emergence of Quintravian Wisener comes in, and they start getting more steady production in the run game, more consistent production in the run game. And that has allowed, as you kind of are alluding to, Quintravian Wisener is a bigger back, about 210 pounds. Certainly someone who usually you don't see the first guy bring him down. But I just would look no further to Texas's last outing. And I'm not comparing Georgia's defense this year to Clemson, but Texas's run game at times has disappeared in really timely moments. And it's something that I think I'd keep an eye on. So I guess the best way I'd answer that question is, it's, in my mind, Texas's run game has the ability to be that type of, a unit that, sure, can break tackles and break out for really big, amounts of yards in a game. But they also have to show their own consistency, because they haven't done that all year. Outside of the Texas A&M and Kentucky game, really, it's been hit or miss.
Eric, where will you be for this game? Are you on field? Are you in the booth? Are you watching at home? Or are you going to be a man of the people out amongst the crowd?
I think my boss, Kevin Ryan, and of course the other boss, Taylor Estes, shout out to her, they're listening. So I will not be out in the crowd. I hope they know that. I'll be in the press box. I wish Texas gave us field access, but we do not get field access as a local press box writer. So I will be in the press box.
Can you give me a final score prediction? How do you feel about this one?
Yeah. I thought the double-digit, line by Vegas was a little high, but Vegas didn't build all those big billings on being wrong. I see this being something around the realm of 28-14, 28-17, but I do believe Texas wins.
He is Eric Henry, Horns 24/7. Awesome getting to bring you on the show for the very first time. And I appreciate your boss, Taylor Estes, for putting us together. She's been a longtime contributor on these airwaves. So I very much appreciate her just, hopping right to and getting me somebody that could come on and talk Horns football. Thank you so much, and enjoy the game on Saturday.
Anytime. Appreciate you having me on, my man.
There you go. That is Eric Henry of Horns 24/7. I had a texter say, Derrick Henry? No, not Derrick Henry. Eric Henry of Horns 24/7. Make sure you look up the Horns 24/7 account. They do a fantastic job over there. Yeah, this game is it's going to be an interesting one. If Clemson somehow finds a way to win this football game, it certainly changes a lot with the narratives about Dabo Swinney and his methods maybe not being what they need to be. Look, you can make the argument certainly that they backdoored their way into this thing and they needed help. They needed a loss from a team in front of them. But hey, that's part of the game, right? It's part of standings. My team has been involved in situations like that. Your teams have been involved in situations like that. You didn't think that you were going to make the championship game, but then you did because, the season played out. That is part of it. We have breaking news here, and I appreciate our Tolos for being on top of this on the stream. JD Wyatt says Clemson has another portal commit, the edge rusher from Purdue. So that's huge for the Clemson Tigers. Look, I mean, Purdue didn't have the best season this year, but certainly being able to pull in another transfer portal guy who I'm sure was a at least somewhat sought-after player in the portal, that shows that Dabo's willing to be aggressive. He's not going to be aggressive and go out there and bring somebody in who doesn't fit the profile, that doesn't fit the mold of the kind of player that Dabo Swinney wants in Clemson. But the fact that now there's two portal players, one of them being an FCS wide receiver and now an edge rusher from a Power 5 program making their way into Clemson, that tells me that Dabo Swinney sees the writing on the wall. That Dabo Swinney realizes that you can't be as competitive as you want to be in modern college football if you're not at least using it a little bit. Getting a guy or two or three at most. That's all he needs to get. I don't want Clemson to become one of those programs like Florida State that is completely and utterly dependent on the transfer portal and having to rebuild a team every single year. That's not a good way to do things. But ignoring it completely, also not a good way to do things.
Game on, gloves off. We aren't pulling any punches.
This is Wire to Wire with Cole Bryson and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
This is my house. I have to defend it. Bless his highly nutritious microwavable macaroni and cheese dinner and the people who sold it on sale. Amen.
Marv. Harry? Why the hell did you take your shoes off?
Why the hell you dressed like a chicken?
Fragile. It must be Italian.
You'll shoot your eye out. You'll shoot your eye out.
Only one thing in the world could have dragged me away from the soft glow of electric sex gleaming in the window.
That fixed the issue there. Sorry, guys. A little programming, a little hardware issue. We didn't get squared away to bring you back here on the stream. Sorry, guys. It's hard to read a stream and host a show and do all of it all at the same time. Who is your team, and how good do you feel about their chances of getting into the NFL playoffs? Just minutes left to get in your votes for the best Christmas movie ever. If you want to vote for Home Alone, text the word alone to 71307. If you want to vote for A Christmas Story, text the word story to 71307. I kind of figured this thing was coming down to the wire, and it is. Still 2 votes separating this thing. We've gotten a bunch of votes in since I last talked about it, like 4 minutes ago, and now we're still separated by those same 2 votes. So Tolos, get it done. Make it happen. Time is running short on that. That's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We're going to be back again on January 2nd to bring the show back in its full force on January 2nd. Starting then, you will be texting us at 844-FAN-PHONE as well as calling into the station that way. When we come back on the other side of the break, who had the best sports year in the Palmetto State in 2024? They both have a lot of great accolades, but who's going to take that one? We'll talk about it next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Tolos, it has come down to this, the ultimate Christmas movie. As nominated by you, a 24 movie field, Scrooged not in it. Might have to throw the whole thing out right there, but hey, you nominated it, not me. You guys nominated Santa Claus 1 and 2, Toys and Home Alone 1 and 2. Should have taken up some extra spots with like Scrooge because that's a great movie. Ben agrees because Ben's a Bill Murray aficionado himself.
Big fan.
Do you know that Bill Murray used to call up the husband of the actress who played the blonde in Roadhouse?
Yep.
And leave him voicemails in the middle of the night saying, turn on TBS. You're never going to guess what that son of a you-know-what Swayze is doing to your wife right now. And just hang up the phone. God, I love Bill Murray.
I remember him telling that story. Legend.
Do you believe the stories of him just like walking into people's houses and doing the dishes in a party?
You know, yeah. And being just bartending in Charleston.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the man.
Like, I think if you try to make it happen, like Ashley and I would try. We went like 2 or 3 times. She's like, we're going to see Bill Murray this time. It'll never happen. If you try to see Bill Murray, he's like that little like squiggle in your eye when you're outside, you see that squiggle. If you try to look at it, you can never see it. Right. But that's Bill Murray.
Perfect example.
If you look for Bill Murray, you're never going to see Bill Murray. But anyway, that movie should have been on the list. It wasn't on the list. Still haunts me that Christmas Vacation got eliminated, but we're here now. The final vote has been tallied. All you Tolos, you came out and you made it happen. You put in your votes. And it is official. The best Christmas movie ever by a differential of 1 vote. A Christmas Story is the best Christmas movie of all time. A Christmas Story is the best Christmas movie of all time. Listen to this. If the audio will work.
Fragile. It must be Italian.
It's a major award.
Only one thing in the world could have dragged me away from the soft glow of electric sex gleaming in the window. He had yellow eyes, so help me God, yellow eyes.
I triple dog dare you. Oh, fudge.
Only I didn't say fudge. I said the word, the big one, the queen mother of dirty words, the F-dash word.
Add to that, I can't put my arms down. Add to that, I want the official Red Ryder BB gun with this thing in the stock that tells time. That's an all-time quotable movie. It can't be beat. And look, you could try to do A Christmas Story too. It'll never hold a candle. Just like they tried to do Christmas Vacation 2. And it wasn't good. Number one, because like Ed Helms is not funny. Can we agree on that? Ed Helms is not funny.
Yeah, agreed.
Like he's bombastic, but that's not funny. Like he's just missing that little something. It's hard to figure out what that little thing is. But there you go. The vote has gone final. A Christmas Story edges out Home Alone by 1 single solitary vote. 18-17, the final vote, 51% going in favor of A Christmas Story, which is wild because Home Alone has the bigger cast. It has the more accessible, kind of goofball slapstick comedy style. Yet you just can't beat nostalgia. In the end, nostalgia always wins. 1983, I think, was the year that Christmas Story was released, but it's set in the 1950s. Right. Like burning the turkey, so you got to go to the Chinese restaurant where they have a duck and it's smiling at them. Come on. I get it. I get it. Texter says, boo. They didn't like the vote. Well, where were you? You should have rocked the vote. You should have got more people out. Should have called up your wife, your daughter, your son, your grandma. They don't even have to know why they're texting in. They just do.
It's the leg lamp.
It's the leg lamp. Yeah. You can get those. I don't know if you can get the full size version. I've seen the small tabletop versions, but yeah, I want to have that. I think Stone Man down the hallway has one of those. I think.
Yep. He does.
He does. Classic. It's also what happens when you've been in the same office for like 20 years. He's worked out of that same office since I started working here, and I've been here 17 years. So there you go. Best Christmas movie ever. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Occasionally we do talk sports. But like, let's be real. We've broken down the Clemson-Texas game as many ways as you possibly can, right? We've broken it down 100 different ways. And we're actually going to break it down some more in the next segment with Don Munson, play-by-play voice of the Clemson Tigers. But, I mean, what more insights can we have? We've had 2 weeks to talk about this game. I don't like the schedule the way that it's set. I talked about this yesterday. I don't like the schedule with 2 weeks between games. Like, yeah, it's a big deal. But eventually you run out of talking points in ways and different angles that you can look at a game. Texter says, I demand a recount. No hanging chads. Sorry, bro. Sorry. Your movie lost. Where were you? Macaulay Culkin? Joe Pesci? They couldn't get it done together. What did Mr. McAllister do for a living? Like, I'm straight up believing that he was like a mobster. Like he was like a CEO of a pharmaceutical company. Wellness check. Can we find out if Mr. McAllister is okay right now? So the year has been good to both Clemson and South Carolina. 2024 has been a good year for both of them. Who had the better athletic years? You can rate Clemson and South Carolina's athletic seasons. It certainly isn't comprehensive, but it's the major talking points. For South Carolina, you won a national championship in 2024. Undefeated women's team, national champions. Congratulations to Dawn Staley. Looking pretty good this year as well. Not quite as elite and dominant as you were in 23-24. But you're going to be in the thick of things late. So anything could still happen, right? Even though you've dropped a couple to this point in the season, anything could happen. In men's basketball, you finished with a 36-8 record. You lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to Oregon. You're off to an 8-3 start this year, and you beat Clemson, your rival. So you got to say that 2024 has been a good year for South Carolina men's basketball. Not the way you wanted to end it, but I mean, come on, Lamont Paris being able to put together a team the way that he did, you know, a ragtag bunch of dudes, and the way that he crushed it in the transfer portal in the offseason, getting a couple of transfers to come in, teams looking pretty good. It's going to take some time to gel. That's the nature of college athletics these days, right? These kids have to be able to adapt and to gel quickly. It's certainly easier to do in basketball when you've only got 5 guys on the court, another couple of guys on the bench. But he's shown himself to be a master of doing it, of rebuilding a team quickly. It certainly helps when you got a lot of NIL money to deal with. In baseball, the team finished 37-25, made it to a regional. Not the most prolific season for South Carolina baseball, but hey, if in your down seasons you're making it to regionals, you're all right. You're doing okay. You got Paul Maneri. You got a guy with a lot of class and a lot of humility and a lot of humor. I think you got a really good baseball coach, and I think the years to come are going to be really good. I hope that, and this is something that's changed since Paul Maneri was hired, I hope that as NIL creeps into college baseball, the way that it has to other sports, the way the transfer portal continues to grow in college baseball, the way that you can now fully fund all your scholarships in college baseball instead of splitting, what was the 10.3 or 10.5 scholarships between your roster. I hope he can navigate that. I think it's an advantage to South Carolina with their history, playing in the SEC, with the money, with the facilities. I think he's going to be just fine. And finally, in football, season's not over yet. You're going to the Citrus Bowl against Illinois. I think you're going to win that game. You're probably going to finish 10-3. Excellent football season for South Carolina, given the conference that you play in, given the schedule that you had. The only blemish really on the season is that Ole Miss game. I mean, there's no shame in losing to Alabama in a tight football game. There's no shame in losing to LSU. It's a great football program. Like, if you're beating those teams, but you're losing to the Mississippi States and the Vanderbilts of the world, if that were the way this season went down, you got those elite wins, but you also just somehow crap the bed against teams you know that you're better than, then you might actually be a little more disappointed. But to finish the season 9-3, at worst 9-4, at best 10-3, I think that's a great, great calendar year for South Carolina athletics. Now, on the Clemson side of things, football, you made the college football playoff, but you lost to your rival. That's a mixed bag right there. You got blasted by Georgia to start the season. You realized, oh crap, we are not where we thought we were. You lost in middle of the season in really just disappointing fashion to Louisville. And you lost another one after that as well to South Carolina, to your rival. I can't see how, as a Clemson football fan, you could say that this was a level season. B- season, maybe. Basketball 24-12 last year. You made it to the Elite Eight. Awesome job. Awesome job. You get an A+ for that. Baseball 44-16, super regional for the first time in 14 years. You beat South Carolina twice last year. A effort for that. Should have made it to Omaha, but you didn't make it to Omaha. You make it to Omaha, you get an A for me. Soccer, you made it to third round of the NCAA tournament. Most people are going to say, who cares? But hey, it's a sport Clemson excels at. It's a sport Clemson has titles at. So making deep runs into the tournament is expected. That's what you should be doing. So that's a B+ season, just by virtue of the expectations that you set upon yourself. So how would you rate those seasons? Keith and TR says any year not wearing that disgusting orange and purple is a good year. Clemson men, one of two schools to make a super regional Elite Eight and college football playoff. So what would you say? Would you give Clemson an A for the season? If we're going letter grade, all sports combined, would you, for the calendar year, would you give Clemson an A all in? I think results matter. I think results really matter here. You get some credit for getting there, but you got to do something with it once you're there. Clemson edged out an SMU to get to the college football playoff. You did the bare minimum that you had to do to get there. You needed some help from Miami. You kicked a game winner. You're there. Now go win something. Prove to me that we've been wrong about Dabo Swinney all along, right? Prove to me that we've been wrong. That he doesn't need a roster full of portal guys, which, first of all, neither Cole or I ever said that he needed a roster full of portal guys. A few a year is all he really needed. So who ultimately had the better? How would you grade? For South Carolina, how would I grade their season? A for women's basketball. B+ for basketball, for men's basketball. B for baseball. B+ for football. B+ for football. So, hey, you got an A and 3 Bs. It's pretty good. You could argue A- for football, but it's not an A- if you're not making your conference championship, when you're losing a game in embarrassing fashion. I've got the same critique for Clemson. Calm down, South Carolina fans. So an A and 3 Bs. It's pretty good. If I brought that home, I don't know, Ben, did your parents, when you were in high school, did they throw you anything for having a good report card? Or did you ever have good report cards? I don't know. I don't know what kind of high school student
stuff.
You were.
Good stuff. Yeah. High school. I mean, I was mowing lawns in high school, so I was making my own little treat money.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, I kept my grades up.
Yeah. Did your parents throw you anything? No,
never anything. No,
it was just
expected.
like,
congratulations, you get dinner.
Other nights they wouldn't give it to you.
That was it. I mean, leftovers from our dog.
Oh,
no, I love my parents. They did great.
In middle school, when I got to high school, they didn't do this anymore, right? But when I was in middle school, it was like, hey, we'll take you. This will show my age. They're like, we'll take you to Media Play, which is a store that didn't exist. It was Best Buy before Best Buy. Like, we'll take you to Media Play, buy you any record you want. It's like, sweet. Pulled up. I was like, here, I want this one. They're like, you can't have that one because it's got cuss words on the back and fire on the front. I was like, come on. Not cool. I worked hard for this. Grading the Clemson season, the calendar year for 2024. Football, B+. Basketball, A-. Baseball, A-. Soccer, B. 2 A's, 2 B's. You know, South Carolina gets 1 A, 3 B's. Clemson gets 2 A's, 2 B's. Is that fair? You guys with me on this? Texter says, as a Clemson fan, this season is like when you get called to your boss's office because you've been goofing around and you think you're going to get fired, but it turns out you actually made a big sale and got a promotion. You accidentally, you messed around. So it feels like you were given a client that just kind of sort of like gifted you a whole lot of money, and all of a sudden, that's the reason you're not getting fired. Let's see here. Texter again wants a recount. You don't get one. It says Mr. McAllister was the 90s version of Marty Bird from Ozark, says Spartanburg J. Spartanburg J, I never finished Ozark. I tried. I tried hard. I watched 2 seasons of it. It never really grabbed me. It was like Breaking Bad in Arkansas or Missouri. Never really grabbed me. Look, I'm not saying that it was a bad show. Like, that's probably the easiest way to shock somebody now is to say, I don't like the show that you love. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? It's so good. You got to give it a chance. And I gave it a chance. A season and a half. If you don't grab me in a season and a half, it's just not for me. I'm not saying your show sucks. I'm just saying it's not for me. It didn't speak to me. Speaking of speaking, I'm going to speak to Don Munson, the director of broadcasting for Clemson Athletics. He is on the road, well, in the air soon, headed to Texas if he's not already there. And we're going to break down this Clemson-Texas college football playoff matchup with Don Munson on the other side of the break right here on the Fan Upstates. Well, it feels like we've been waiting for a year to get to this game, doesn't it? Texas hosting Clemson in the first round of the 12-team playoff games. Don, welcome to the show. We're joined right now by Don Munson, Director of Broadcasting for Clemson Athletics. Don, I just wonder, how tomorrow are you going to be able to tell the difference between the Clemson and the Texas fans? I know the slightly different color of orange there. How many Clemson fans are you expecting to make the trip out to Austin?
Well, I know the school only had about 3,500 tickets to sell, so I would have guessed there would be at least that many, but it'd probably be a smattering of other Clemson fans. I mean, I traveled out today. I didn't come out with a team. I actually traveled out today and was impressed by, what I saw in the airports coming out of Greenville and then also landing here in Austin. So it wouldn't surprise me, maybe, 5,000-6,000 Clemson fans are here, and they will be the ones that are in the vibrant orange, not the burnt orange. So it'd be very easy to tell the difference between the two.
Don, we had one of our Tolos, Mad Craft, get in on the stream text line here and says that I wasn't aware of this, that Dabo wanted his players to walk at graduation and that they are just heading out to Texas today. Is that correct?
No. They left on Thursday.
Oh.
They came out Thursday.
Oh, okay.
They came out on Thursday. I don't think there's any seniors because graduation was on Thursday, it wasn't today.
Is that so? Okay, I didn't know that. I'm sometimes I got to kind of operate on faith from what our Tolos are telling you when it's live information in the moment.
Once again, everything you read on the internet is believable. So everything you read on the internet's true. Come on, make safe.
Don, what does it mean to Cade Klubnik? Have you had a chance to chat with him, to be going home, to be facing off against Quinn Ewers again, a rematch of the 2020 state championship game? I'd imagine he's trying to downplay this thing as much as possible, but it's got to be real special to him.
Oh, there's no doubt that it's special to him. I mean, you watched his reaction when it popped up on the screen, Clemson and Texas. I mean, he was almost like dumbfounded when it came up. And obviously, he got a little bit of kidding. People were jabbing at him a little bit, but something tells me that there'll be plenty of Klubnik folks and relatives that will be there in the stadium to watch him play, and probably some old high school teammates both playing against him, and also will be there in the stands watching him as well. But this is anytime that you can come back and perform in your hometown. Yeah, that's special, and in particular when you're the bad guy. Sometimes it's good to be the bad guy and come in and dash some dreams, and hopefully that's what he does tomorrow.
Don, do you think any of that had much to do with the seeding and putting this bracket together the way that they did? I mean, you could clearly see SMU versus Texas as being a compelling storyline as well. In your mind, did that have a factor?
You mean that people in committees that make up matchups that think that they can earn more money, that would draw more eyes, particularly when they're having to go up against the NFL, even though the games are being played not on the regular channels, and they're having to, you mean that they would actually do things like that? That Notre Dame and Indiana would get to play on a Friday night? The Battle of Indiana, that would be the leadoff game? No, they wouldn't think about doing things like that. Come on.
I had to get into a shouting match with my co-host Cole Bryson about, he said the committee has set a precedent that you can't lose more than 2 games or 3 games and get into the college football playoff. That's precedent. I had to tell him, here's your problem, Cole. You think there's precedent here. You think that what they do this year affects how they're going to look at things next year. That's not the case at all. They can change their minds whenever they want to. Wire to wire.
I mean, they're already talking about changing the playoffs for next year. Here we thought, all right, we're going to be in a 12 game, a 12-team playoff here for a while. They're already talking about changing it next year, moving the number to 14. And, all you have to do is you realize, all right, think about this. We just went from a 3-game playoff with 4 teams. We're now playing 11 games. And if you don't think that that's about money, you're an idiot. I mean, it's all about money. We are a capitalist society. This is about making money. And that is exactly what they will do. It will change each and every year. They will make decisions on what they think will bring eyeballs to the television and help them make even more money. That's what this is all about.
Don, before we actually start getting in and talking about this Clemson-Texas game, talking about playoff expansion and changing in years future, I don't know if it could have gone worse for college football as a whole to have the chaos that we had occur this year? And I'm talking about Boise State getting in with a playoff bye, and the powers that be, a lot of the big programs not being put into the college football playoff. I think that may force change a little bit faster, may force Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti to try to expand this thing as quickly as possible to get as many of their teams in. And of course, ask for guarantees and concessions from the other conference. In your mind, does that scare you at all as a representative of an ACC program? Should that scare the ACC going forward that they may try to throw their weight around even more and get those demands met?
Oh, I'm sure that they're going to try to throw their weight around even more. But, in all 4 conference championship games, do you also now realize that each one of them could have been won? It didn't end up this way, but each one of them could have been won by a team that was not in that conference just a year ago.
Yeah.
All 4 of them. So it's a different world in which we live in right now. But, all I really care about is what happens with Clemson. And Clemson has made it. They did earn their way there. They take a little bit, they got some help along the way, but they earned their way there, won their conference championship game, and here we go. And hopefully they can. Man, if they take care of Texas tomorrow, I'm just telling you, you look out. I mean, just look out because it seems like when you get to this point, as we've seen in the NFL, as we've seen in Major League Baseball, other playoff situations, you let a team all of a sudden kind of catch fire in the playoffs, and they're very, very difficult to knock out.
Talking to Don Munson, director of broadcasting for Clemson, do you feel like the Tigers basically have to play a perfect game against Texas to get this win? I mean, we'll get into this a little bit later on here in this chat, but being depleted at a key position such as running back, do they have to play perfect, mistake-free football to win?
No, because I think Texas isn't going to play perfect, mistake-free football. I mean, that's proven. And that's just, you just look at what they do offensively. They've turned the ball over. So no, Clemson doesn't have to play a perfect game. But, they need to win the turnover battle. They need to win the field position battle. And they got to figure out a way at least to slow down the pass rush, however means that may be. If it's via the running game, is it through short passing game? They got to figure it out, and then just go from there. They only have to be 1 point better tomorrow. I know that's very cliche, but that's just the facts. And something tells me this is going to be a higher scoring game than people are anticipating as well.
Don, we've had the privilege of talking to several high school coaches as they've made their way up through the high school playoffs here in South Carolina, and they've all basically said the same thing. And I'm sure pretty much any coach will tell you the same thing: is you can't get creative in the playoffs. Like you have to do what it is that you do best to the best of your ability and hope that that's enough. Obviously, as we just mentioned there, the run game is depleted right now. You got some injuries there with Phil Maffa and other guys. Does Garrett Riley have much of a choice right now? Does he have to get creative? And, taking that a step farther, how have Keith Adams Jr. and Jarvis Green developed through what's likely a crash course on being a go-to running back?
Thank goodness it was a little bit of a longer crash course than would typically be. A few more days to prepare. But I would tell you that really the strength of this Clemson football team offensively, though, wasn't the run game; it was the passing game. And so, if that's what they're going to have to turn to, that's not a bad thing in my mind. To be perfectly honest with you, it's not a bad thing. So we'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow. This will be the best offense, at least by the numbers, that Texas has had to face all year. On average, they have faced an offense that has been in the mid-70s and a defense that has been in the mid-70s as well. So, but offensively, and again, when you get to the playoffs, you've got to score points. You have to score points. I went back and I looked at all the college football playoff stuff that's happened so far, and there's only about 6 games where the winning team scored less than 30. You've got to go put up points and advance in this thing. You're very few. There has not been really one defensive battle that has been won in the college football playoffs. It's been by scoring points.
Yeah, Don, we've seen obviously Cade throw the ball all over the field in multiple games this season, just putting up video game type numbers. With Texas and having that elite pass defense that they have, I feel like if Cade can break it out and knock out 2 or 3 or 4 big runs, they can keep the Texas pass defense honest enough that they have to respect it and maybe still keep some passing lanes open. Do you feel the same way? And, does Cade have to have a big game on the ground to win this game?
No, he doesn't have to have a big game on the ground to win this game. That I think that's what everybody is saying, but Texas knows that. I mean, if you don't think that Texas knows that they need to maybe shut down Cade Klubnik's run because of the situation that the running game appears to be in going into this contest, then again, they're going to key on Klubnik. They're going to hit Klubnik. They're going to try to punish Klubnik. They're going to try to, enforce themselves on him as much as they possibly can. And they're also, I think, going to try to get very physical with the wide receivers. So, the wide receivers had better show up tomorrow and be ready to go as well. Because, it's basically a very veteran crew that is back there in the defensive secondary for Texas versus a very young offensive wide receiver set for Clemson. And that would be my mindset going in this. If I'm the defensive coordinator for Texas, I'm going to try to beat up on those wide receivers and see what they got.
Don, we've had the opportunity, over the past year to talk a lot of NIL and transfer portal together and talking about Dabo Swinney's mindset and his policies on how he likes to handle those kinds of things. And he broke with precedent a little bit over the past 2 or 3 days, getting the edge rusher out of Purdue and the wide receiver out of Southeast Missouri. How do you see, now that the quote-unquote floodgates are opened, do you see the nuts and bolts of incoming players going in terms of attracting them, hosting their visits, ultimately paying them to be at Clemson? You got to feel like Clemson, or that Dabo's not going to do it the way that everybody else is doing it. He's going to do it his way. So what will that look like?
Well, I think that what he's going to do is he's going to reward the players that have been there on his roster. And that's the way. And I don't think he's going to be the only one that does that. I think there's going to actually be a whole lot of coaches now that kind of transform to that. People keep forgetting that there's another open window to the portal. It'll open up in April. So I think that everybody is panicking here in the month of December with guys that have hit the portal, and they're overpaying, to be perfectly honest. In some aspects, I think they're just overpaying kids. So it'll be interesting to see what happens once we get to April, because once we get to April, most of these programs will have gone through spring training and spring practice. And I think that what you thought was active here this month is going to be doubly so in the month of April, because kids are going to be wanting to, get out. And also you have the new restrictions on the roster limits as well. The SEC has said, we're only going 85. We're not going 105. The ACC is going to go 105. But still, you got to cut people. I mean, Clemson carried 135 kids on their roster this year, so you've got to figure out a way to trim that down by 30. But I think that everybody wants to point now. You better look ahead a little bit and realize what also is coming, because April is going to be much wilder than what December has been.
So, Don, do you see a handful of other guys, certainly being targeted, yes, but ultimately making their way to Clemson? There's certainly some needs, maybe an older statesman of a running back and some other key positions as well. How many more guys do you think Clemson ends up taking by the time both of these windows are done?
Oh, I wouldn't think it's going to be a tremendous number, but I would say 5 to 6 when it comes down to it. I think so. Only the addition of 3 to 4 more, to be honest with you. But again, I think just depends upon what happens in April. Who's going to be in the portal for Clemson in April, and who is that? What are they going to lose, or who's going to declare for the draft as well? I think you have to start figuring that piece of the puzzle out as well.
Talking to Don Munson, director of broadcasting for Clemson, right here on Wire to Wire, Diesel and Cole Bryson. And it feels like we're going to get a sense of how mentally tough this Clemson basketball team is tomorrow at 2:00 as they get into conference play against Wake Forest. From what you've been privy to, how has Brad Brownell's team responded after back-to-back heartbreaking overtime losses against Memphis and South Carolina?
Well, it's certainly been tough. It's obviously the first time that they've lost back-to-back overtime games since 1937. So this is something that hasn't happened inside the program, in a long time. But again, I think that even if they do lose tomorrow, people panic way too easy. Last year's national champion, UConn, Now, and I'm not saying that Clemson is UConn. I'm not saying that. I'm here. Listen to what I'm saying. Go back and what happened to UConn last year. UConn went through the same kind of stretch where they lost like 3 games in a row, and everybody was but they were able to piece it back together. College basketball is way different than any other sports. There are ebbs and there are flows, and you got to make sure that you're into a flow once you get to, if you're fortunate enough to make it into the tournament, you need to figure out a way to be into a flow. Clemson established a flow actually in the tournament. They were horrific in the ACC tournament, obviously, last year in D.C., but they found a way, beating New Mexico, then taking care of Baylor, then taking care of Arizona, and probably were just some free throws away from beating Alabama, making it to the Final Four because they got into a flow. And that's what college basketball is about. You can't panic here in December because of what's going to hopefully come at you sometime in March.
Don, is there a moment or two across, because I know you broadcast multiple sports there at Clemson, is there a moment or two that really stands out to you as special for the calendar year of 2024?
Oh yeah, I mean certainly the kick by Hoosier is there first and foremost. The run that Clemson had, the win over Baylor and the win over Arizona were not saying that the win over New Mexico wasn't special, but you knocked off programs that have won national championships when you beat Baylor and you beat Arizona, and probably those were very unexpected things that were coming at you. Obviously baseball as well. There were some key moments there. That I think that this baseball season coming up for Clemson has a probability, or has the I shouldn't say probability. That's a bad word. Has the possibility of getting back to Omaha for the first time since 2010, which would be another huge step for Eric Backage and the program. But unfortunately, what has happened in the past, it gets swallowed up and it gets moved along too quickly because everybody is focused on the here and now and what have you done for me lately. And so maybe tomorrow hopefully has the best moment of 2024 that is there. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have that moment and we'll be able to build on that as we'll hopefully make it on to January the 1st of 2025.
4:00 tomorrow afternoon. Don Munson going to be on the call of Clemson at Texas. First time Clemson being in the 12-team college football playoff. It's been a blast having you on multiple times this year, Don. Always appreciate you taking the time, especially when you got to rest those pipes and get them ready to go for tomorrow afternoon. Thank you, as always, for making yourself available as much as you have, and I appreciate you so much, pal.
All right. Always good to be on with you. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. And if you're a Tiger fan, hope that today or tomorrow is a great day for Clemson basketball and also for Clemson football. We can pick up a pair of wins.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. That's Don Munson, play-by-play voice of the Clemson Tigers. Doesn't call himself that because he's got a lot of humility. The director of broadcasting for Clemson. He calls football games, he calls basketball games, he calls baseball games. Don Munson, he eats, sleeps, lives, and breathes Clemson athletics, and he is just absolutely the best. When we come back, we'll take a whip around the sports world, see what else is happening out there in a segment we call Our Daily Wires. That's coming up next on The Fan Upstates. Live update for you. Florida Gators, 7-5 Florida Gators lead Tulane 9-0 with 8.5 minutes to play in the third quarter of that football game. I mean, who is even left on these rosters between these two teams? You look at the list of opt-outs and NFL draft guys for both of these teams. The list is long, including 2 quarterbacks from Tulane who entered the transfer portal, 2 running backs, a tight end, 2 defensive line guys, and an edge rusher. But with Florida, the list there is huge. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 guys plus from this Florida Gators team have entered the transfer portal. That's why you get bad bowl games like this, because they're literally pulling kids out of the stands to go play for these to go play in these bowl games. The transfer portal, people have been saying that bowl games are irrelevant or meaningless for years. They've been trying to push that narrative. I don't believe in it, but this might be one of those things. Oh man, Florida has just picked Tulane off to retake possession. If they go down and score a touchdown on this drive, that will probably pretty much put this one away. Dan B, one of the 8 Tolos who took Tulane to upset Florida in this bowl game. I'm not sure it's going to work out for you guys. Those of you who haven't sent me your upset picks, 71307. Text in your name, your game, and the spread. This is your last chance. And I'm saying last chance because you've got an hour left to get in your upset picks. And this is your last opportunity to score points in this challenge this year. We're going to go back, start tallying things up, make sure we didn't make any mistakes, and we're going to have a winner for you very soon in the near future. It'll be after Christmas, obviously, because Cole and I are not going to be back here together until January 2nd. To Daily Wires, here's what's happening out there in the sports world. This is the buzz out there. Last night, we had one of the rarest plays in the NFL happen, the free kick field goal, when a Denver punt defender struck a Chargers punt receiver. As the foul occurred, as time was expiring, LA got to choose between one untimed down or a 57-yard undefended field goal, which Cameron Dicker the kicker, hit. It's the first time this play has occurred in the NFL in 48 years, and we right here on Wire to Wire had you ready to go. We had you ready with the explanation of the rule in the promo that we've been running for the last couple of months. So there you go. Listen to that. Left-handed pitcher Patrick Sandoval and the Boston Red Sox are in agreement on a 2-year deal, $18.25 million. Sandoval, coming off of Tommy John surgery, going to add some depth to this Boston Red Sox rotation. Former Atlanta Brave and now free agent infielder Gio Urshela has signed a deal with the A's. He hit .256 in 36 games for Atlanta in 2024. So stinks to have a guy choose to leave you, but you're not really losing a ton. A guy hitting .256. The Grizzlies absolutely walloped the Warriors last night, 144-93. And here's the wild part about that game. Normally, you're like, why are we talking about an NBA game? Neither Draymond Green nor Steph Curry made a field goal in that game. Now, obviously, they didn't play the whole game. Once they realized this thing was getting out of hand, they didn't play. But for 2 stars like that, to not put a single point from the field on the board, that's got to be some sort of weird record. Memphis has now won 11 of their past 13 games. This also goes back to what we were saying the other day, Cole and I, talking about the NBA and why ratings are down. You can have your 2 stars not make a single shot and still score 93 points. There's no defense in the NBA. 144-93. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous, that score. Locally here, Charlotte sucks. End of story. Charlotte sucks. They're 13th in the Eastern Conference, 7-20 on the season, and are on a 3-game losing streak. Charlotte Hornets, I don't know what to do with this team. I don't know. There's really no reason to pay attention to them. Most of y'all don't care. Do any of you Tolos care about the Charlotte Hornets? I doubt it. If you do, you're not paying attention. I tried a little bit last year. I tried to make sure that I was talking about the Charlotte Hornets and pointing out successes. Nobody called in to talk about them. So we talk about what you want to talk about. You tell us with your texts and your phone calls what you want to hear about here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. In case you missed it, Georgia will be without Carson Beck for the college football playoff due to the injury that he sustained in the SEC championship game. God, it's going to be a tough road for Georgia to get through this thing now, being down a quarterback. But hey, having the extra time, having the playoff bye, that certainly helps. It helps them get prepared and get ready to go for whoever they face between Indiana and Notre Dame. In case you missed it, let's see. That was that one. Last night, Sam Houston defeated Georgia Southern 31-26. So I got one up on Cole on that one with our bowl picks. I said, there's no way I can root for Georgia Southern, do anything, even if they're in our own conference. I can't pull for Georgia Southern. I can't pick those dirty Eagles. And I was right. Sam Houston got the win, 31-26. Earlier today in bowl action, Ohio defeated Jacksonville State 30-27. Tight football game there. That's how bowl season should be. You had a 9-win team against a 10-win team. You had good football. We want good football. It's like there actually is such a thing as too much football, especially when it's bad football. When it's 6 and 7 win teams that are depleted by the transfer portal playing each other, it's bad football. It's bad television. Nobody wants to watch it. You might tune in for 5 minutes and then you're gone. Tonight at 8 o'clock, we get our very first college football playoff game in the 12-team era. 8 o'clock, Indiana at Notre Dame. Notre Dame favored by 6.5 points in that game. I heard there was a good chance of seeing some snow. I love it. I definitely want to see that happen in this one. This is going to be a blast. The only in-state matchup we have in the college football playoff. Tomorrow, noon, SMU at Penn State. I'm going the Penn State Nittany Lions to take that one. 4 o'clock, you got Clemson at Texas. We talked to Don Munson earlier, just in the very last segment about that game. He doesn't think that Clemson has to play perfect. He doesn't think that Cade Klubnik has to go off on the ground with his legs. He doesn't think that the lack of a running game is necessarily going to cost Clemson big in that game. I don't say that I necessarily agree with them. I think a lack of all of those things, any one of those things, is probably not the reason Clemson is going to lose. All of those things combined, certainly going to make this a tall task for the Clemson Tigers. 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Tennessee at Ohio State. Tennessee fans overtaking Ohio Stadium. They're buying up all the tickets. They're changing the name to Neyland North on Apple Maps. It's great. I absolutely love it. Again, a reminder, today, this next hour is your very last chance to get in your upset picks for the post-Christmas bowl games. Can't be one that's already been played. Obviously, can't be one that's in progress now. So go to ESPN.com, find a game where you think the underdog will win. Text me your name, your game, and the spread. A lot of people here, I know we don't talk politics on this station at all, but this is something that does actually affect you sports fans. One last piece of legislation that was pushed through from Joe Biden before, just a couple of weeks away before leaving office. The FTC will now require ticket sellers to disclose all fees up front rather than immediately before checking out. So, if you see a face value for a ticket, you go through the rigmarole of buying the ticket online, and all of a sudden, bam, they hit you with like $10, $15 or more fees. Not anymore. They can still charge you those fees, but they got to tell you up front that they're going to charge you those fees. When we come back, we started the show with this. We'll get back into it. Nick Saban saying that NIL is so out of control that fans probably shouldn't even be donating to NIL. That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. Touchdown. Florida took the lead, now 15-0 with the PAT coming up. Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Text in, be a part of the show anytime you want. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. And I can really only say that for the next hour of the show, because starting on January 1st, effective January 1st, you will no longer be texting 71307, and you will no longer need to put the word fan on your texts. You'll be texting 844-326-3663. The same phone number you call in on will be the number that you're texting in on. Making it as easy for you as we possibly can. The reason why we had the digital short codes is because they were all the rage at the time, right? The reason why we have you text the word fan is because we shared a text line with WORD. And if you started your text with the word fan, then it would filter down into a special playlist that really only we could see. Texter on the topic of the NBA says LaMelo Ball is the fourth leading scorer behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Correct. He says, I think the Hornets can start to have hope. Start to have hope. There's still a long road back there. The problem is you can have one great player who cooks every night. But if you don't have anyone else on your team who can score, you're unlikely to be successful. If he's trying to do it all by himself. Yes, Charlotte has LaMelo Ball scoring 30.4 points a night. Zach LaVine is okay. He's scoring 22 a night. Brandon Miller scoring 21 a night. See, when Brandon Miller finally figures it out and steps up and can score night in and night out, and the team learns how to play defense, now you're talking about a decent basketball team. Now you're talking about a watchable product. As of right now, it's not a watchable product, and as of right now, I don't even know how you can watch Charlotte Hornets basketball. It's buried behind a paywall. Why would I pay to watch this team that's 13th in the East? No thanks. Give me a product to watch, and I will tune in to watch. Don't do it, and I won't. Nick Saban was apparently absolutely chopping it up on College Game Day today. I got JD texting in at 71307 saying that he was wearing an Indiana Jones hat, that he's dropping in like the Rock quotes. Nick Saban has finally figured out that being happy is fun, and he's fun to watch. He really is. Nick Saban is fun to watch. I always got a crack out of Nick Saban because I figured he was putting on a character. You know that grumpy ass Nick Saban? The guy that pound the table, start fights, go after people. I always figured that was an act. Like he's a hard competitor, but he also feels like he has to be this kind of guy. I always thought it was funny. Look, he's not my team's football coach. I can laugh at him, and I generally almost always believed what Nick Saban was saying. I believe he has the best interest of the kids and of the sport as a whole at heart. The problem we've got right now is that the people who are running this sport, they have such a mixed bag of allegiances. Nobody's looking out for anybody. People are looking out for themselves. Players are looking for a payday. Coaches are looking for a payday. Everybody's leaving left and right. There's no continuity whatsoever. Look at these two teams that are playing right now, Florida and Tulane. There's like 25 guys off both of these rosters. How are you supposed to put a team together with consistency year in and year out, especially if you build that kind of culture? That's going to be a big time problem for Mike Norvell down in Tallahassee. He built the elite 2022 team out of the portal. They all left. The team he built in 2023 or 2024 sucked. Let me rephrase that. He built the 23 team. They were great. He built the 24 team. They suck. Jury's still out on whether or not he could do it again. That's a difficult job. That's a really difficult job to do. Like you have to have the absolute best coaching staff that you designed for that purpose to identify these guys, and you got to teach them how to play as a team really quickly. See, as much as Cole and I have both criticized Dabo Swinney for not using the portal as much as we think he should, neither of us ever wanted Dabo Swinney to go whole hog in the portal. You can't. You can't, because then you build a culture where guys know that I can stop in there for a year, collect a bag of money, and go somewhere else and do it again. And you get into a situation like what Nick Saban says right here. He was on the Pat McAfee show. He's talking about guys not really wanting to be developed as football players. They don't see the value in improving their skill. They just want that bag of cash right here, right now. Here's Nick Saban.
Well, I think it's obviously good for the players if they can make that kind of money, as college players, which was, never allowed. We weren't allowed to have anything prior to 5 years ago. But I do think on the development side of it, it is not beneficial to players. I think that when you have to go out and compete, and I don't think you can be a good competitor, you mentioned it, if you can't overcome adversity. I mean, that's a part of being a good competitor. I mean, I don't care what sport you're playing or when you're playing, if it's golf, if it's tennis, if it's soccer, I don't care what it is. There's going to be times when, you have a bad play. There's something that you have to overcome. And I think people learn to do that in the process of development and what they have to do to get better so they can compete. And you're absolutely right. All I ever promised a guy was an opportunity. And I said, you're going to have an opportunity. I told Jonathan Allen, you're going to practice every day against Cam Robinson. All right, he's going to win the Outland Trophy. You're going to win the Outland Trophy. All right, but that's how you're going to get better. And guys bought into that because they were looking to the future. How can I develop value for my future? Now guys are looking to where can I develop value right now, today? What can I get today? So it's less about playing and being a great player and more about what can I get instantly, in terms of getting in the portal or going to another school. And, nobody talks about the college experience anymore. Nobody talks about graduation. All these things are probably important to the future. And, I actually coached 25 years ago when not very many guys graduated. And there were a lot of stories out there about, guys that didn't do very well when they, got out in the real world and they couldn't play anymore. And so I know there are people like yourself who have done extremely well. And there'll always be cases like that, but there's going to be a lot of people that they should use their football playing opportunities to, develop a career outside the game so they can have success when they can't play.
Yeah, I don't know how many of these coaches are in these kids' ears trying to impart knowledge like that. That's wisdom. Nick Saban is spitting wisdom there. How many of the wide receivers coaches at Tulane or the running backs coach at Florida or the special teams coach at Western Kentucky, how many of those guys are taking the time to sit these players down to tell them what Nick Saban just said there? To tell them, hey, you got to work to create the value for yourself later, rather than chasing the instant gratification of playing time now, money now. I mean, Pat McAfee goes on not long after that clip to talk about how a lot of guys, a lot of these young men coming out of college, they are set up uniquely. This generation of college kids are set up uniquely to have an entrepreneurial spirit, to say, I can come out of college. I don't have to go get my degree in civics or physics or engineering or whatever it may be. I don't have to really pay attention to my degree program because I could just go be a TikTok star, which that's about to get banned. Or I can go be a YouTuber. Or I can go be a podcaster. Some of those guys coming out will be great at that. But it's such a small percentage. It's such a small percentage. I would love to know. And Ben, maybe you can Google this for me while we're talking about it. What percentage, I don't even know how to ask this question. What percentage of new podcasts last longer than 2 years? Because I mean, if I'm a podcaster at whatever it is I'm podcasting about, if I can keep it going for 2 years, number one, I'm still interested in it. Number two, I've clearly got listeners who are paying attention, who like what I'm doing, and I might have the ability to make some money off of this or make a living off of this. I think you got to go a lot longer than that to be successful in this business. Man, certainly some people can jump in and just find some instant success because they're already a star. You know, if Lenore Sellers started a podcast, 10,000 South Carolina Gamecock fans would sign up immediately to go listen to that podcast. And he would have sponsors out of the gate. But there's only a very small percentage of guys who have that kind of cachet to start something and be instantly credible. And then does he also have the talent, the stick-to-itiveness, and the desire to make a living out of it? Who do we have on the phone, Ben?
All right. We have Matt. We got Matt.
Matt, what's on your mind, pal? Hold on 2 seconds. I got you. Matt, what's on your mind?
Goodness gracious, I done lost my mind.
It's Madcraft.
Yeah, it's me, man. Listen, I wanted to say that college football playoffs, I don't know if you've looked at kind of the map of the 12 teams, but one of the cool things, I guess one of the only cool things about it so far is that it's pretty widespread.
I love it.
All over.
I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I think that's pretty interesting.
I mean, I argued this week or earlier this week, Madcraft, that I love the college football playoff structure the way that it is because I want the college football national championship playoff to be a true national championship. Like, I don't want to see 5 SEC teams in the playoff, even if you've got 5 SEC teams inside the top 10. You know why? Because we just spent the last 14 weeks figuring this out. We just saw these teams going head to head against each other for an entire season. I've already seen that movie. I don't need to watch it again. I want to see your best versus the Big Ten's best versus the ACC's best versus the Big 12's best versus the G5's best.
Now, as far as the topic at hand, at what point can I ask you, do colleges make more than NFL teams individually?
Like revenue for the program?
Yeah.
Well, that'd be something we have to Google there to find out. I would think it's pales in comparison.
I tried to Google it earlier, and in 2015, apparently 8 NFL teams were less than most college in revenue that year. Like, for example, the Atlanta Falcons in 2015.
So I'm looking right now at 2023 revenues in college football. And I'm seeing Oregon, their 2023 athletic revenue was $150 million. There's other teams that made slightly more than that. There's a lot of teams that made slightly less than that. But it seems as if in 2023 athletic revenue for these programs, the biggest and best and richest programs, is sitting somewhere in the range of $160 million.
Yeah. I think that's impressive. If that keeps climbing, though, at what point do we call that the new league and call the NFL the senior league? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
but anyway,
the Dallas Cowboys in 2024, their valuation was $1.2 billion. So you've got a pretty gigantic gulf between 160 million versus 1.2 billion. You're talking 10-fold difference.
Yeah. Well, listen, before I get off of here, can I please tell y'all my Christmas joke? Give everybody.
Go ahead.
Holiday cheer.
As long as there's no 4-letter words in it?
No.
Okay.
All right. So there's three gentlemen are driving down the road on Christmas Eve. It's late, it's dark, and the roads are icy, and they have an accident, and unfortunately, they don't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So all 3 of them are approaching the pearly white gates of heaven, and they're met by St. Peter. And St. Peter walks up and says, in the spirit of Christmas, if you can present something to me that symbolizes Christmas or something of Christmas, I will let you through into heaven. So the first guy comes up, and he's thinking for a second, and he reaches in, and he pulls out his lighter, and he strikes it. And then St. Peter looks at him, and he says, well, what is that supposed to be? And he says, they're Christmas candles. And he says, oh, okay, well, you can go in to the gates of heaven. So the second guy comes up, and he's a little bit more nervous. He's kind of fidgeting around in his pockets a little bit, but then he finds something, and he pulls out his keys, and he starts shaking them. And St. Peter looks at him, and he says, well, what are those supposed to be? And he says, they're Christmas bells. And then he says, okay, well, you can go on right in through. So finally, the third guy come up, and he's panicking. He is sweating like a dog. He doesn't know what to do. His mind's not working. But finally, a light bulb goes off, and he reaches down in his pockets, and he pulls out a pair of women's panties. And St. Peter says, what in the world are those supposed to be? And he says, they're carols.
Oh, that's dirty, Madcraft. That's dirty. That's a dirty joke. Hey, I appreciate
Merry
you.
Christmas, y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Merry
That is. Oh my God, they're carols. Oh my God,
Caroler. I barely know her.
Okay. Wow. How do we turn that back to Nick Saban? Nick Saban talks about NIL and how things are changing in the NIL scene and how much money is involved here. And at what point will fans finally have to say enough is enough? I'm not donating to my school's NIL.
Each year, it's gotten a little worse. Like, the first year we had name, image, and likeness 4 or 5 years ago, we had a $3 million and everybody was happy. All right, then the next year it was 7. Then the next year it's 10. Then this year it's 13. Now they're looking at 20. I mean, where does it end? And the people who are supporting this, they really get no benefit for it. And I'm sure that there's going to be some instances in the future where those people don't want to continue to support players that aren't there. I mean, how would you feel if you gave them $500,000 to your program and it was to pay certain players and those players all left after 1 year? You would say, I don't know if I'm going to continue to do this.
Yeah. Why would I give to my team's NIL fund if the guys that I just put money into are no longer are not in any way, shape, or form loyal to the money that I've just paid them? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. You do it if you want to. Go right ahead. Not how I'm going to spend my limited income. And to his point about how big NIL has gotten and the fact that there is no cap on this whatsoever. He said it started at 3. Now we're headed to $20 million. You guys realize, I mean, the NFL has a salary cap. It's a gigantic number, and it keeps going up as well. But the NFL salary cap is $255 million. And you may say to yourself, it sounds absurd to say that college football salaries, a team's salary, could ever approach that. But just supposing for a moment that it did, supposing that college football NIL salaries per teams, the biggest programs, reached $100 million. So now we're talking about just shy of half of an NFL roster. That's why these guys are trying to figure out ways to sue the NCAA and stay in college because they know it's payday. And then the NFL product will suffer because now you got elite players who don't want to go to the NFL, right? You remember, what was it back in the old AFL days when you had players legitimately choosing between the NFL and the AFL? They eventually had to merge because they were losing out on players. What's the NFL going to do? And JD started the show asking this question or something similar to this question. What will the NFL have to do to change the rules to try to get things back in their favor? If college football gets so valuable as a league, what will the NFL have to do to try to keep up with college football? It's crazy to think, but we might not be that far off of it. Hey, Clemson taking on Texas on tomorrow at 4:00. Don Munson on the call. We had a great chance to catch up with him earlier today in the show. I want you to hear that if you haven't heard it. That's coming up next right here on the Fan Upstate. Last segment of the year for me. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Cole will be back on Monday and Tuesday of not next week, but the following week. So you'll have 2 days with Cole solo before the end of the new year, and then we're back together officially on January 2nd. Today marks Wire to Wire show number 188. It's been an absolute blast. We started this show on March 25th of 2024, and we've had so much fun doing it, guys. We cannot express our gratitude for you enough, because what we've done here, what you guys have helped us build in our first not even year, in our first 9 months on the air together is truly special. And the fact that we've got Tolos like Rick and Tom and JD and Madcraft and Dan B, who take an active role in this show every single day. Don't think that we guys don't think that we don't notice that how special that is, and know how fortunate we are to be able to have that. Clemson versus Texas. I think Texas gets it done, beats Clemson by 17 points. I think that's going to be, it's going to just get out of hand late, and Clemson's not going to have enough firepower to get back into the game if they get down. I do think they're going to look okay in the game. They're not going to get embarrassed in the game the way that Tulane is getting embarrassed by Florida right now, 26-0 in this bowl game. God, could you imagine having a great season the way Tulane has had another great season, and a program that has come back out of obscurity to start putting together good season after good season after good season, only to have half your team leave and just have nothing in the bowl game. It's sad, and college football is going to have to change, and it's going to have to fix some of these glaring issues that are facing it. But until people with influential voices get out in front of this thing and convince the college football world that this needs to change, and convince the ever rotating crop of student athletes who are playing in the game that they need to compromise a little bit on their immediate cash grab for the betterment of the game, I don't think anything does change. And I don't know how to fix it. If that's the case, if you don't love it, if you hate it that much, go be a fan of an FCS team, because that's the purest form of the game. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Can't wait to talk to you guys and talk sports with you in the new year. Break down all of the college football playoff when I get back on January 2nd. Tolos, it's been a blast.